Is your vehicle stopping like it should? Does it squeal or grind when you brake? Don't miss out on summer brake deals at O'Reilly Auto Parts.
O'Reilly Auto Parts.
Jersey.
Isn't it about time for somebody's favorite radio program?
Yeah. 97.3 ESPN presents The Sports Bash with Mike Gill.
When I'm driving, I got a guy on the radio who talks to me. I can't see him, but he talks to me.
Now, live from inside the Ocean Casino Resort Studio, here's Mike Gill.
Two o'clock on a Sports Bash Tuesday. What's up, everybody? I'm your host, Mike Gill. Josh Henning producing today's show. You out there? Big series. Phillies and Dodgers. Going to take a look at how these two teams stack up, not only in this series, but big picture. We all know what this season is about. It's about the big picture. How do these two teams stack up? And will the Phillies be getting reinforcements? We'll have news on that hopefully soon, as there is a lot of buzz that Kyle Schwarber should be in the lineup tonight and possibly even Bryce Harper. So stick around and find out if those two guys are in the lineup tonight. Pretty sure Schwarber will be in the lineup. We'll see if Bryce Harper is back. Keep in mind, we talk about this Dodger team. No Mookie Betts for them, so they're playing a little shorthanded too. Also, Yamamoto, he has been out for a while, so they've had some injury issues as well. But these two teams will meet tonight in Philadelphia, and it will be really the battle for the best National League team. These two teams are right at the top in the standings, and you take a look at them as we'll kind of match them up and pair them up because, you know, it's an interesting time for them to meet right now, right? The Dodgers with 55 wins, Philadelphia with 58 wins. And this one could be for the number one seed down the road. I mean, if you want to be the team that gets the number one seed, if that matters to you, having that extra game at Citizens Bank Park, I think that matters to a lot of people, although you might counter and say, it didn't help them last year. I think you still want those games in Philadelphia. And tonight's a big one. If Philadelphia, and this series, should say, is a big one. If Philadelphia can win this series, it only strengthens their possibility of getting home games in October. Bobby Miller is the probable tonight for the Dodgers. Not good. 1-6 with a 6.12 ERA. Zach Wheeler goes tonight for the Phillies. This is the kind of game where Zach Wheeler really has to exude his dominance and has to be the guy that dominates for the Phillies. And you take a look at the Phillies. They are a pitching first team. Obviously, they have some very offensive, talented players. But this is a team that will win with pitching. And Zach Wheeler tonight, the best of those pitchers for the Phillies. He gets the ball. We'll take a little deeper look at how important he is for Philadelphia. Because you take a look at what the Phillies are trying to do is they are trying to win because they have the deepest pitching staff. They are trying to overcome what they haven't been able to do the last couple of years, which is, number one, in the series against Arizona, Arizona too, they struck out way too much. And you really understand that if this roster and this lineup is going to be the same, and we don't know that it will be. We don't know that this will be the same lineup and roster going into the playoffs. They might make a deal. They might not. We talked a lot about it yesterday. But if they can't make a deal for an outfielder or somewhere to upgrade the lineup, is this a lineup that strikes out too much? Is this a lineup that can produce enough? And if it's not, you are hoping that your pitching can dominate like it has most of the first half of the season. And Zach Wheeler pitches tonight against this Dodger team. Look, the Dodgers are a team that this offseason were a prohibitive favorite. They went out and added and loaded the roster up with pitching. Tyler Glasnow, who will he pitch in this series? I don't think you'll see him in this series, but they went out and got Glasnow. Obviously, they went out and got Yamamoto. Oh, and by the way, they added Shohei Ohtani, who you'll see at Citizens Bank Park tonight. So those moves there, going out and getting Glasnow, adding Shohei Ohtani, and when they posted for Yamamoto, they went out and really got the three possibly biggest names that you could have added in the offseason. The Phillies kept it with what they had. They did not add a player this offseason. So the Dodgers, who got disappointed and knocked out last year by Arizona, keep that in mind. The Phillies and the Dodgers would have been on a collision course to play last year. And unfortunately for the Dodgers, their pitching staff was just horrible last year. So they went out and got Yamamoto, spent all the money on him. They went out and added Tyler Glasnow and spent all the money on him. So they added two huge arms to that staff. And, their pitching last year was just terrible. I mean, Kershaw, was at the end of the line for them last year. They had a bunch of guys hurt. What's his name's hurt? Buehler. Walker Buehler, he came back this year, pitched in 8 games, then he got hurt again. So I think one of the differences between Philadelphia and the Dodgers is still that pitching. The Dodgers have some good pitching. I love Glasnow. He's a big game pitcher too. But I don't think he's on the level of like a Wheeler. I don't think he's up at that level there. I think he's like the next step down. Gavin Stone, who I think will pitch tomorrow, if memory serves, either tomorrow or the next game. But Stone is so Stone's pitching tomorrow. You're going to see Miller tonight, who's not very good. Stone. So you're seeing some of and Landon Knack, by the way, is the other guy. Knack's been very good. But I think when we take a look at these two teams, one difference that stands out to me still is the pitching. By the way, Yamamoto, who got off to a slow start and he's hurt right now, he's been very good. I mean, I think people expected him to be like Pedro Martinez good. He hasn't been quite there. 2.82 ERA, 107 WHIP, 84 strikeouts and 74 innings. He started to settle in, and then he got hurt. But I still think the Phillies pitching staff is deeper than the Dodger pitching staff. So if you're trying to stack these two teams up and say, all right, what do they have? What do we have? I think the Phillies get the check mark on the starting pitching. Would you agree on that? That the Phillies starting pitching is better than the Dodgers starting pitching?
100%. I don't care how good Glasnow is. It's one guy. The Phillies have a better 1 through 5 than the Dodgers do. The Dodgers could have one guy who has a great night, but the other guys, there's still some question marks.
Glasnow,
Yamamoto's still young. He's still kind of figuring it out. He's been good, but not great.
I disagree. I think Yamamoto's been great, but he's hurt right now. That's been the problem there. He was really good before he got hurt. He started off slow, as I said. He got off to a slow start, but then he kind of settled in and has been really good. But then he got hurt. That's been part of the problem there. Is some of their guys. Walker Buehler, when he's healthy, they've got those three guys, Glasnow, Yamamoto, and Buehler, if you face them in a playoff. Now, I don't know that Buehler is going to be able to be the guy. He came back, pitched 8 games. He was not very good.
And he had another setback recently.
He did. So he's out. He's on my fantasy team. Yamamoto's on my fantasy team. I know well these guys' injury problems.
So what you're saying is that if you have a guy on your fantasy baseball team,
I have Glasnow too, by the way.
He'll get injured soon too.
Yeah. But their guys are more under the radar. Like right. Knack has been really good. The Gavin Stone, he's been very good. Last year, what did you run into? You ran into Brandon Pfaadt, a guy that you did not think highly of, and he shut you down not once but twice.
Right.
So I think the Phillies pitching gets the check mark there, right? I definitely go that direction.
Yep.
You look at the bullpens of these two teams. Their bullpen is solid. It's good. It's not great. I think the Phillies bullpen. Now, you might say that Evan Phillips as the closer for that team, is he more of a known than Jeff Hoffman? Now, Jeff Hoffman, you might say, well, he's going to the All-Star game. Well, come on, that doesn't really mean all that much. But between Evan Phillips and Daniel Hudson, who has been really good, their back end of the bullpen is similar to the Phillies. They're similar. So I think the two teams' bullpens are similar. But if you're going off of pitching, Glasnow, Yamamoto, Buehler, those would be the top three if healthy against Wheeler, Nola, Suarez, and then the fourth guy, Sanchez, whoever you want to pick for the Dodgers. Hudson, Phillips, that two in the back of their bullpen is pretty darn good. Your two guys are pretty solid. We'll see if either one of these teams adds bullpen come trade deadline. So that the pitching thing, I think, between these two teams is interesting.
According to MLB.com, the Dodgers relief pitchers have allowed 41 home runs this year. The Phillies relievers have allowed 23. So distinct difference in the bullpens in terms of who you're having a little more faith in.
Yeah, well, we'll see. I think that's when you take a look at teams, we generally pair them up offense versus offense first. I think these two teams, the big difference in them is pitching. Last year, the Dodgers pitching is what let them down. They went out in the offseason and added Glasnow and Yamamoto to try to shore that up. Did they do enough? Remember, they lost to Arizona last year.
Yep.
Their pitching was so bad that they lost to the Diamondbacks in that series, even though offensively they were loaded. That shows you pitching dominates come playoff time. That Arizona pitching staff shut down the Dodgers' vaunted lineup, and the Dodgers just couldn't get anybody out. And they lost the series against Arizona. You know, it's funny. Me and my buddy were going back and forth on this. I said, I actually wanted the Phillies to face the Dodgers. And he's like, you're out of your mind. I said, their pitching stinks. Like, the Dodger pitching last year was terrible. And he was like, well, you don't want to face their lineup. I said, yeah, but the Phillies pitching can handle their lineup. You just don't want to get into a situation where, now, the funny part about Arizona is it wasn't Kelly and Gallen that shut you down. It was Fott and the other clowns that you couldn't end up hitting.
You can just say Fott. That's
he beat you twice. It's crazy.
He beat you twice. It's ridiculous.
Offensively, you take a look at the Phillies and the Dodgers. They're very good offensively. Ohtani is having an unbelievable season. 314, 28 homers. Guy's got 28 homers at the All-Star break. So he's on pace to hit 60. Freddie Freeman, after kind of like a slower start, he's up over 300, a 406 on-base percentage, 13 homers, 58 RBI. So Freeman is really cooking right now. Betts being hurt, but he's hitting 300 with a 405 on-base percentage, 10 homers, 40 RBI. Those three guys there, Ohtani, Freeman, Betts, as their top three against Turner, Harper, Schwarber, really as your top three. It's an interesting battle there. That's a close one.
I think it's a coin flip because I think it depends on a personal preference, right? I mean, I think we all would agree that Ohtani, if he's not the best hitter in baseball, he's at least one of the three best hitters. And then Betts and Turner are comparable. I think I would say Betts is probably the better player between him and Turner, but I don't think it's
close.
I don't think it's like a crazy difference. And then, Harper and Freeman, I think the Harper's a better player, but we had the conversation a couple weeks ago about how Bleacher Report ranks Freddie Freeman as the better guy. So I think it kind of depends on
they're close.
Which direction you lean on a couple of these guys.
You also go to the secondary players, right? And then you look at Teoscar Hernandez, who's got 19 homers, but 259, more power, 60 ribbies, as opposed to a guy like Alec Boehm, who has less homers. The ribbies are there. The batting average is higher. So if you like the guy in Hernandez, he's got 105 strikeouts. Will Smith is their catcher, 270, 15 homers. He's having a better year than JT Realmuto. Of course, has been hurt. But even so, I think Smith has been the better offensive player. You take a look at like Nick Castellanos, who hits a little bit lower in your lineup. And they got, a couple guys who are just kind of, Max Muncy's not had a really good year for them. He's a guy that in the past has been a big part of their lineup. Enrique Hernandez, who they got in a trade, has been terrible for them. Gavin Lux is another one who has just been completely disappointing. So there's a lot of similarities between the two teams. Big names, big-time stats. Ohtani, as the DH, Schwarber as your DH. Freeman against Harper at first base. Turner against Betts as the shortstops. It would make for an awesome October series. As much as the Phillies and the Braves the last couple of years has been something, the Phillies, remember, to get to the World Series and win it in 2008, they upset the Dodgers. And that was a big, into the night, Matt Stairs hitting that home run. So there is synergy between the two teams. And you'll get a taste of it tonight at Citizens Bank Park. I just hope that at least when the lineup comes out, you get hopefully Schwarber, if not both Schwarber and Harper back tonight. That would add to it. That would now, them not having Betts, is a little disappointing because you like to see both these teams because it's a fun time. Like right before the All-Star break, these two teams playing as they go into the break here. And look, keep this in mind. We talked about the importance of being the number one seed. If you value that, right now the Phillies have, uniquely enough, 3 up in the win column. They play 3 games. If the Dodgers sweep you, you both have 58. And now in the second half, now you play Oakland this weekend, and
that should help.
The Dodgers will play after Philadelphia. They will head to Detroit. So both teams have winnable series after this. So you could be going into the All-Star break both locked in with about the same amount of wins. So it's a big series tonight at Citizens Bank Park. 58 wins for the Phils, 55 wins for the Dodgers. Could be a NL championship preview tonight at Citizens Bank Park. It's funny. I was looking at, they had the bracket out of, like, if the playoffs were to start today, who would be playing. And I only look at it for the reason of Philly as the 1 seed right now would play the winner of the Braves and whoever they're matched up against. So you're right back down the road of having to play the Braves potentially for a 3rd season in a row. I said, you can't keep relying on the same path.
Right?
I mean, it's not a rite of passage that you're just going to beat the Braves every single year.
Definitely not. You can't bet on that.
No, and that's my concern, is that just because you have the best year and you're winning all these games and you're way out in front, you can't just think that those things all automatically mean that you're going to beat the Braves again. And they just beat you 2 out of 3, and I get it. You have some injuries, and so I don't put a lot of stock into that. But I also, I don't want to go down that road of, we've beaten them 2 years in a row, and we beat them all the time in the playoffs. It's not a rite of passage that you're beating that team again. I think that Braves team has another gear in them, and they do that whole beating them 2 years in a row, all that, being the wild card team, and then it flipping roles. And I keep going back to how vocal the Braves were about the playoff setup. I mean, they were pretty vocal about they don't like the setup of the wild card team getting
That's
those
correct.
games.
Yep.
They're pretty vocal about that. And I said this early in the season, and I kind of stand by it, is that I don't think the Braves were all that interested in winning the division. I'm not saying they didn't, like, they won't try to, but I don't think they're like, oh man, we're 10 games out or whatever it is in the division. I don't think they look at it like that. I don't think they would be deterred 1 iota if they had to be the wild card team this time around.
Well, especially considering the fact that the last time Ronald Acuna got injured, they won the World Series.
That factors in as well.
So they've already shown you historically that they don't need that guy to find a way to win a championship.
Well, and it also, I wonder, because they went down the road of not having Acuna one time, do they follow a similar blueprint in the second half of the season at the trade deadline to replace him?
Oh, they certainly could. I mean, last time they added about 20 outfilders.
They did.
Exaggerated, basically, but still.
The 4? I think they added 4
They added
outfielders.
4, yeah. It was Jock Peterson. I remember he was a specific one. Adam
Duvall.
Duvall.
What's his name won the MVP of the World Series, didn't he? One of them.
Yeah, one of them won the MVP.
So one
of the guys they acquired, I mean.
One of the guys they traded for. I don't think the Braves. And by the way, we keep talking about trades and the trade deadline and all that stuff. I don't think the Braves are going to sit on their hands at the trade deadline. So everybody that you're going for, don't be surprised if they're going for them too.
Jorge Soler.
There you go. Who had him on the bingo card winning a World Series MVP? Probably nobody.
Probably himself.
So I don't think that the Braves are going to sit on their hands and watch the Phillies add firepower and do nothing. I think the Braves, losing Acuna, are probably involved in many of the same conversations that you're having. Right?
Yeah, they have to be. Because if as Jim Bowden put yesterday, if the Phillies are looking at center field, you know that the Braves are also looking at the same exact players. These are the players that Jim Bowden mentioned on MLB Network Sirius XM Radio.
Lewis Robert of the White Sox, Jazz Chisholm of the Miami Marlins, and Cody Bellinger of the Cubs have been their top priority. Now, they know that both Robert and Chisholm are available and that both of those teams will trade them. The Cubs have not decided yet if they're going to buy, sell, or hold.
A lot of the guys that you're looking at, they're probably looking at too.
And there's a possibility, let's say the Phillies got Bellinger. I'm just throwing it out there for conversation's sake. And then the Braves could be like, we're going to get Robert Jr. and Chisholm. How about that? They could counter the move.
They could, and look, they've done it before. So let's not count the Braves out, even though the standings say it's an uphill climb for them. They're only 7.5 out right now. They've won 3 in a row. You've lost 2 straight. You've got the Dodgers staring at you.
Yep.
And, we're getting ready for the All-Star break. But it should be a fun series at Citizens Bank Park. It all starts tonight when the lineup's out. We'll have it for you. We're anticipating the return of at least Kyle Schwarber, maybe one other one, but I want to get into, and Frank Close, our 97.3 ESPN.com Phillies insider, has his mailbag coming up on the other side. A little earlier today because Frank's got something at 3 o'clock. We had to move some things around, so we're going to have Frank's mailbag coming up in about 6 minutes from now. But are you guys at the point where it's all or nothing for the Phillies? In other words, if you have to mortgage the future, no matter who it is, you got to take the shot. Are we at that point right now with this particular team? Let's talk about it. Let's get into it. 609-403-0973. 609-403-0973. We are just getting started on a Tuesday as Frank Close from 97.3 ESPN.com, our Phillies insider, joins us coming up next here on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN.
Housing lender. You're listening with Mike Gill
Never thought this radio stunt would catch on so big.
on 97.3 ESPN.
I need your arms around me. I need to feel your touch.
229 Sports Bash live, 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. Listen, Monday, 8 o'clock, Alec Boehm's in the Home Run Derby. They're filling out the 8 participants. Boehm, I think, was the first one. He'd probably the last guy you think about in the Home Run Derby. Was the first guy in the Derby. Monday night, you can hear the Derby right here on 97.3 ESPN. Tuesday night, the MLB All-Star Game is on 97.3 ESPN with 7 Phillies participating. One All-Star for our website, 97.3ESPN.com, is Frank Close. His Phillies mailbag appears every Tuesday at 97.3ESPN.com. And Frank, Phillies-Dodgers tonight. Really, this could be a preview of the National League Championship Series. It would have been the National League Championship last year had the Dodgers got knocked off by Arizona. And one of the reasons they got knocked off by Arizona was their pitching was lousy last year. Well, they went out and got Glasnow. Then they went out and got Yamamoto, and they've got a much better pitching staff. So how much better is this Dodger team than the one from last year?
Well, don't forget, too, they added some guy named Shohei Ohtani, who is just an offensive juggernaut. So, yeah, the Dodgers needed to improve. They got 2 stud starters. They got perhaps the biggest bat in all of baseball. So the Dodgers seem poised to win that National League West this year. But it's a team that Phillies need to play and need to show that they can beat, because if you want to win the World Series, you got to beat the good teams, and here's a really good test for them right now.
It is 58 wins for the Phillies, 55 for the Dodgers. They meet tonight. Both teams missing some pieces. Betts is out. Yamamoto not in the rotation right now. Walker Buehler came back, didn't pitch well, back hurt again. I'll ask you, Frank. We don't have the official news yet, but feeling on Schwarber, Harper, will we see them? It feels like Schwarber tonight. You think we see Schwarber and Harper in this series?
Well, I'm pretty sure Schwarber is coming back today. They haven't announced it yet, but that seems to be what's going to happen for Schwarber. Schwarber could be the DH, not play the field. I would think they won't use him in the field again, because it was playing defense that caused him to get injured to begin with. And then Bryce Harper, I wouldn't be totally shocked if Harper came back tonight, because he pushes really hard, and he was running the other day pretty good. But I think for him to play in the All-Star game, he should sit out this series and next. And I think the All-Star game would be a really good time to come back if you're Harper.
We'll see when that lineup comes out if both of those guys are involved. And, of course, JT Realmuto, we think, could be back after the All-Star break. Frank Close, 97.3 ESPN.com. Let's go to the mailbag. Ed and everybody else wants to know, what, if any, pieces do the Phillies need to add by the deadline? And who are some of the players that the Phillies legitimately would think about moving to accomplish that goal?
Well, I think once the Phillies are healthy, you're going to realize that the Phillies are pretty complete. Dave Dombrowski, at least publicly, has been saying he's got a large number of MVP-type players who, when they're healthy, are going to play like MVP-type players. So I don't think there's a lot of pressure to make a big splash. I don't necessarily see him going to get a big name in any way. But one thing that Dave Dombrowski has always been good at is finding those names that you don't necessarily expect ahead of time. And there is one name that kind of came out from USA Today's yesterday. We saw that Bob Nightingale reported that Brent Rooker is a name that could be one that the Phillies are looking at. And I think that's kind of the type of player you're going to see the Phillies go after. If you're not familiar with Rooker, he's an outfield bat. He's actually been on 4 teams already in his young career. He came up in 2020, but he had 30 home runs and was an all-star for the Athletics last year. Now, the Athletics are not going to have a ton of all-stars, so he might not have made it on a good team like the Phillies, but he is a kind of a power bat who bats right-handed, who you can put into left field. That doesn't suggest then that the Phillies are looking at center fielders, meaning they might be satisfied with Brandon Marsh and Johan Rojas in center field, and comfortable enough that they can go add a right-handed bat that could play left field. So I think if it's not Rooker, it might be somebody like Rooker. Now, Craig Mish, you might know that name. He's covered the Marlins for many years. He broke the JT Realmuto trade to the Phillies years ago. He suggests that the Marlins could trade Jazz Chisholm, and it sounds like there's a lot of buzz about that. I don't necessarily see the Phillies going for a player like Jazz Chisholm, and the reason being it'll cost you one of your top prospects, and really the Phillies don't necessarily need that type of superstar bat at this point. They kind of need the players that will fit the roles that they need, and right now that might be a right-handed bat, someone who could play either left or center, but the center fielders are going to cost them more. And, while I am a big proponent of making the World Series, the veteran sportscaster Casey Stern always loves to say prospects are cool, parades are cooler. I do believe in that, that you want to get a championship above all else. But I think they can do so and then still be sustainable down the road. Now, pitching, I think there's always room to add pitching depth. And I don't think they need to add a big-time starter. But, I think right now you're realizing that, the depth that the Phillies have might not be as good as you might expect, and you're still kind of a wild card with the 2 young guys that they brought up in Tyler Phillips and Michael Mercado. So I think that they would look towards the back end of the rotation, maybe.
I want to get your thoughts on, because to get some of these guys, you got to give up. Are there any guys, Frank, that you would be unwilling to move regardless?
I would try to stay away from trading Miller, and I think that you can stay away from trading Miller. Aidan Miller, kind of their top offensive prospect now. I mean, if he might even surpass Andrew Painter and be the top prospect when we see some of these prospect rankings sort of reset after the draft. But I don't think you need to trade somebody like him, because I don't think they need the type of impact player that a lot of teams out there might be looking for. So I mentioned Jazz Chisholm, for example. A team like the Seattle Mariners is absolutely desperate for offense, and they're having a really good season in the AL West. Been in first place a lot of the season, so they need that bat desperately. I don't think the Phillies are in a position of desperation where they have to get a certain piece in order to compete for a World Series. So I don't think they need to trade those top prospects. I think that they can trade, maybe prospects 5 to 10 on their list and still get some good pieces. I mean, while I just went through that adage, prospects are cool, parades are cooler. Well, a lot of teams are perhaps overvaluing prospects lately and too afraid to trade them. So that's kind of meant that second-tier players or second-tier prospects are netting you something at the trade deadline. So I think they can kind of fill their holes and get some really good complementary pieces without having to give up one of the top prospects. Now, would I, if it was me, would I trade a Justin Crawford? I might. It depends on the type of player that you're getting back. A lot of these players might be rental players. If you're looking at a rental, you don't want to trade any of your top prospects. If you're looking at somebody who's going to be around for a few years, well, then you might feel more comfortable trading a Crawford. But I tend to believe now, after following Dave Dombrowski for a few years now closely, the names that he's going to get, we probably haven't heard of yet. And I would say, too, we probably haven't heard of a Rooker before now. And one of the reasons why he finds that value is that he doesn't give up a lot for the big, sexy names these days.
Frank Close, 97.3 ESPN.com. His Phillies mailbag has a bunch of questions about improving this team. Everybody wants to win the World Series. Greg wants to know, do they have enough starting pitching to navigate injuries the rest of the way, or do they need another guy like a Joe Blanton type? And I'll add to that, the Phillies jumped out to this great start, due in large part to an unbelievable first half from two guys that probably you didn't envision happening. Ranger Suarez and Christopher Sanchez, and you can even throw in like a Matt Strahm and Jeff Hoffman, I think, exceeded expectations. Can you anticipate that those guys are going to do what they did in the first half in the second half, or do you think they might need to look for more pitching?
I don't think they need to go too big on this. Now, we've talked about Taijuan Walker perhaps way too much for a weekly radio segment, right? But I think once he's healthy, the rotation is stable enough. I mean, I realize that when you're in a rotation with all-stars and pitchers of the month, that's going to look pretty bad, right? If you're Taijuan Walker with what he gives you. But what he does give you is 5 innings every single time, and then you don't kill the bullpen, and that allows the Strahms and Hoffmans to have those above average and above expectation seasons that you're having. So to me, it's a big trickle-down effect. If you don't get those innings from your fifth spot in your rotation, that's where you're probably first going to put a strain on the bullpen. And then if a guy has a bad day, and it's going to happen. I mean, Ranger Suarez had a couple lately, and even Nola, right? If you go to the bullpen a little early, a couple days in a row, some teams really feel that crunch, and the Phillies have been able to avoid that so far. So I think for now, the nice thing about that fifth spot in the rotation is they got a little bit of a break here. They're going to go with Michael Mercado, at least for now, to quote Rob Thompson, on Sunday against the Oakland Athletics. And then it's the All-Star break. And then you have up until as far as, depending on what happens, because Zach Wheeler is going to pitch Sunday and not in the All-Star game, you might not need a fifth starter until the 23rd or 24th of July. So that gives the Phillies a couple weeks basically to see how Taijuan Walker's coming around. The little spot on his arm was really messing with his arsenal of pitches, right? So if he can't throw that cutter that he's so good at throwing or his splitter, when he's having that success, they just figured we'll let this heel shut it down, and then maybe also at the same time try to rebuild his velocity. So if by the 23rd, 24th, it's kind of clear, all right, Walker isn't really coming along, they probably should try to get some depth of some kind. And when I say depth, it doesn't necessarily need to be the big sexy name. It might not even need to be a Blanton-ish name. I mean, Blanton was a pretty established starter at the time, but they want to make sure that they just don't kill the bullpen. And so I think that's what Walker was able to successfully do, if not pitch as well as the others. But you want to keep that bullpen fresh, because when you get to the end of the year, when the fifth starter doesn't even pitch, you want to have a fresh bullpen, and you don't even need to worry about that spot in the rotation. And if you think about it, if you go down the rest of the season, once you get past the All-Star break, you're looking at what, maybe 14 starts out of that fifth spot going forward. So you just want to have some depth. You might not even need to be a major leaguer, but it is fair to say all the depth that the Phillies had at the minor leagues, you're seeing the best of it in Mercado and Phillips. I mean, you go down a long list of names that have not worked out this year. Mick Gable has not given them anything at AAA. Colby Allard was signed to be starter depth. He's not giving them anything. Max Castillo gave up 7 runs today, is in the rotation in Lehigh Valley. Ricardo Pinto, David Buchanan. Right? You keep on going down the list. Nick Nelson never reclaimed a starting spot this year. So even if it's AAA depth, I would see what you could do to get somebody there just in case. And in the meantime, you might have a couple more starts out of Mercado and/or Phillips to see if they can hang around for a while too.
Frank, another interesting question in the mailbag from Vince. He wants to know, when JT comes back, who goes?
Well, I think Rafael Marchand has been really strong. He was kind of a wild card. He spent most of the year injured up until the time that he was reactivated and then quickly on the major league club. I think he's shown a lot of promise. I really like his arm. I really like some of the power you've seen out of Rafael Marchand. That all said, I think he's going to be the one that goes to AAA when JT Realmuto comes back. And if you look at some of the starts, Christopher Sanchez's big start after his contract, right, the complete game shutout, it was Garrett Stubbs behind the plate. So you have a really good receiver there. And it's also been kind of nice, too, for Stubbs in that he's getting some more at-bats. And if you look at his last 7 games, he's batting .278. And now that's like 100 points better than he was for a while there in the season. So I think what you're going to see with the Phillies, Stubbs regains that backup catcher role. Marchand will probably go down to AAA, and if all's healthy, he'll probably be back as a September call-up. And long-term, I think you'll see Marchand as the backup, like as in next year, because he could play a lot more than the backup catchers for Realmuto have over the years. And then who knows if he's good enough? Maybe he succeeds Realmuto someday. But I think for right now, you stick with Stubbs. He's been very good behind the plate. His bat's picking up a little bit. Bring Marchand back in September, and then next year you might reconfigure. But I don't think they're going to mix that up there just yet.
One thing we talked about yesterday, I want to get your take on, is would you consider moving Brandon Marsh to upgrade your outfield?
If I were going to do that, I would not do it during the season. And the reason why I wouldn't do that is I am a big believer in the team chemistry. And look, this Phillies clubhouse, in terms of players liking each other and playing well together, that's a very strong clubhouse. And I've heard that from a lot of people, even around the league, right? They're a unit. They're a team in the truest sense of the word team.
Oh, listen,
I don't want to mess up with any of those key players.
We kick this back and forth and kind of agree. It's like, if he's not going to play every day, you almost have to consider upgrading, but I can't take him out of that clubhouse and what he means.
Yeah, and let's be honest, he's hitting 3-0. I haven't checked the numbers lately, but last I looked, he was batting 308 against right-handed pitching. So he's kind of a platoon player. Yeah. And platoon players have a role in a team like this. So if you go down the stretch and you're not comfortable playing him against lefties, then you platoon him with a Rojas, and then you get somebody who can start in left field. I think that's going to be where he's finding success. I don't see that, as I was just saying, I don't see them getting a starting center fielder at this trade deadline. So I think he's going to be a platoon player in center field. I think that's kind of where he's going to be at. And I don't know if now's the time, especially as you're trying to win a championship, that's the time you're going to mess up the platoon or try to break the platoon and see if you can get to hit lefties better. That might not happen this season, but but he's pretty good against righties. I think he's worth keeping around no matter what, even if he ends up being a platoon player.
Frank Close, 97.3 ESPN.com. The mailbag every Tuesday right here on the Sports Bash. And the Phillies-Dodgers tonight, big series at Citizens Bank Park. And when that lineup is out, we'll get it to you here on the Sports Bash. Thank you, Frank.
Thank you, Mike.
All right, there's Frank. Of course, his mailbag every Tuesday. You get it here on the Sports Bash. You can get your questions to Frank at Frank Close with a K on Twitter X. You can watch the show on Twitter X. Use the hashtag SB Live. Coming up today on the Sports Bash, Adam Kaplan has football at 4. We're going to look at the NFC East and some of the betting odds there. Also, Evan Cohen tonight at 5 o'clock from Unsportsmanlike. Had some interesting things to say about the Sixers today. We'll get into that as well. That's all coming up on the Sports Bash live on 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, and streaming live video on the X platform at 973 ESPN. Use the hashtag SBLive.
This is the story of the one. As head of maintenance at a concert hall, he knows the show must always go on. That's why he works behind the scenes, ensuring every light is working, the HVAC is humming, and his facility shines. With Grainger's supplies and solutions for every challenge he faces, plus 24/7 customer support, his venue never misses a beat. Call quickgrainger.com or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
The Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
.251 Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, streaming live video on the X platform at 973 ESPN. Use the hashtag SBLive. Another amazing opportunity for you over at Kia Acura of Atlantic City. They are almost out of stock on the 2024 MDX. What they have left has to go. So they priced them to move. $49.95 down. You can drive off the lot for $299 a month for 36 months. That's right. $299 a month, low mileage lease for current Acura owners. You got to hurry. There's only a few left. That's because I have one. I am in the new 2024 MDX, and it is fabulous. It is a tremendous ride. I got it yesterday. Been driving it around all day. My girlfriend took it this morning. She says, I'm taking that car for a ride today. It's outstanding. Rocco, Kia Acura, walked in yesterday. I walked off the lot with the 2024 MDX, Tilton Road, EHT. You know what I really like? It's so comfortable. My gosh. It's like sitting in one of those leather recliners. You feel like you're watching like a football game in there. You know, it's like, I don't want to get out of the car. It's like a new world of comfort in this mobile. So good job, Rocco, Kia Acura, Tilton Road, EHT, your small but friendly dealer. When I say small but friendly, I wasn't there for more than a half hour yesterday. It was fantastic. In, shook hands, that's the car, MDX, off the lot, bang. And it was just a nice ride, man. Really nice ride. So get out there and check out that brand new deal. $49.95 down. Off the lot for $299 a month, 36 months. Bang. Just like that. I like how it's quick and easy. All right, Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. Coming up in the next hour, I want you guys to think about this, all right? And text in at 609-403-0973. Some are saying, there's a couple things here. Some are saying that the Team USA basketball team that has been assembled is the greatest roster that Team USA has ever had. All right? There's only one other team to compare it to, in my opinion. I mean, the Redeem team, very good, not quite as good as the Dream Team. People are calling this Dream Team 2.0. Is that fair or unfair? Plus, there's been a lot of people not happy that Joel Embiid is playing for the Olympic team. I'm telling you why you're wrong about that coming up next here on the Sports Bash on 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, and streaming live video on the X platform at 973 ESPN. Use the hashtag SBLive.
This is the Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. Now live from inside the Ocean Casino Resort Studio, here's Mike Gill.
3 o'clock, Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, streaming live video on the X platform. Use the hashtag SBLive. Well, welcome back. They're both in the lineup tonight. Kyle Schwarber and Bryce Harper, both activated, both in the lineup. Let's get you the lineup tonight. It's brought to you by Clark's Moving and Storage, located in Rio Grande. Moving's a breeze with Clark's Moving and Storage. Leading off, the designated hitter, Kyle Schwarber. Turner at short, Harper at first. Bohm is back at third. Stott is back in the 5-hole. Castellanos in right. Marsh in left. Marchand is catching. Rojas in center. And Zach Wheeler is the pitcher. Kind of feels like a playoff lineup, right? Schwarber, Turner, Harper, Bohm, Stott, Castellanos, Marsh, Marchand, Rojas with Wheeler on the mound. That could be a game one look. Obviously, Real Muto would be in there. And it'll be interesting to see what they do with Real Muto when he does come back to the lineup, where he would fit in. I would imagine he would be hitting in the 5 spot, behind, in front of Stott, or maybe Stott's been an interesting one, man. He has not been nearly as good this year offensively as he was a year ago, but getting those guys back in the lineup, good to see. So Bryce Harper and Kyle Schwarber, both reinstated from the injured list. To make room for them, Cody Clemens has been optioned to AAA, and David Dahl has been designated for assignment. Now, I want to touch on a couple of these moves real fast. One, Dahl being designated for assignment is not a surprise, okay? I don't know that anybody will claim him. And it kind of goes back to the whole situation where, you sent down Rojas before, you kept Dahl up here. Dahl, essentially, he played 19 games, he hit 200, and he couldn't play. All right, Dahl was just a guy. He was basically Jake Cave. Cody Clemens has actually helped you out a little bit. 242, kind of adds some versatility. But now you look at it, and then the next move will be when Real Muto comes back. What do they do with the catching spot? Do they send Marchand down, or do you get rid of Garrett Stubbs? Now you're back to full strength once you get Real Muto back. And you look at that outfield again, and the outfield that's out there tonight with Marsh in left, Castellanos in right, Rojas in center. The question you're going to have to ask yourself is Marsh going to platoon with Merrifield, and is Rojas the everyday center fielder? Or are they going to make a trade to where they upgrade center field over Rojas? Or are they going to make a trade to where they upgrade left field to find an everyday left fielder and move Marsh back to center in a platoon with Rojas? They're, to me, some of the things the Phillies, now that they got the team back together. I mean, this last 10 days with these two guys on the injured list, the lineups have been a mess. They've been a disaster. And for them to go get through that with, they didn't really lose much ground that they had in the division. They're still up 7.5 games. You figure you lost Schwarber and Harper for 10 days. And they're 7.5 games up. You get those two guys back. And I got to be honest, I really thought they were going to be out a while, especially Harper. I really thought Harper was going to be out a while because it just felt like it in his face, in his voice, the way that he looked and sounded after that. It just didn't look good. But they're both back, and they're in the lineup tonight. And that really changes the dynamics of this lineup, does it not? Obviously it does, but it really changes the dynamics of this series all of a sudden. You were talking about playing the Braves and the Dodgers, two of the best teams in the National League, and including you, or three of the best teams, Philly, Braves, and Dodgers. They're probably the three best teams in the National League, and you were playing them severely shorthanded. Now, the Dodgers would say, well, we don't have Betts. The Braves would say, we don't have Ronald Acuna. And they would be right. So when you played against those teams, they're shorthanded too, but it's nice to be back at full strength and to see what the full capacity of this team can be. And getting Harper back and getting a chance to play a couple games before the break here with Schwarber. Now, yesterday we were talking about, hey, can you get one game in this series? I think you got to think about winning this series now and being disappointed if you don't with those two guys back.
My only initial questions, though, Mark, are number one, what is a realistic expectation of two guys who haven't played in basically 2 weeks coming back from injury? Like, are we really expecting them to come into this lineup and be 100% yet? Like, how much time do we give these guys to reacclimate?
We talk about this a lot with injuries. When you get reactivated and you're back, it's because you're 100% generally. McGarry, we were talking about this the other day. I don't ever look at, when Bryce Harper missed all that time, when was it, a couple of years ago, with the elbow problem, and he came back that night against the Pirates. I think he hit a home run the first night he came back, or he doubled or something. These guys are professionals. And when the doctors clear them to play, the anticipation is that you're back on the field and there's no more excuses, Mm-hmm. And I don't ever look at a guy and say, oh, man, he's not 100%. No, when these guys are back, it's because they're 100%. Now, they might re-aggravate and do something like Trey Turner, I don't think is running at his optimum speed in the same way that he was. But he wouldn't be playing if they thought there was going to be a sip. So I don't look at it and say I don't think Schwarber and Harper, because they've been running, they've been hitting, they've been doing some things to get them to the point to when they were eligible to come off the list, that they would be off the list. So I'm assuming they've swung, they've hit some live pitching. We saw Harper running, Schwarber running. These guys have been doing the necessary things to get cleared. You don't just come off the list and say, I've been sitting on the couch for 3 weeks. Can you put me, or 10 days, can I play tonight? No, you have to have shown you can run and swing and cut and do all the things.
Then the other question is Harper and Schwarber enough to offset an offense that has been struggling? Because we know the
Dodgers,
I
think you know the answer to that question.
Well,
are they enough? They're two of the best offensive players in baseball.
They were averaging 3.67 runs per game without them. So what are they now?
Significantly
4.5
better.
runs, 5 runs a game?
Whatever they were previous, I would imagine. You hope to get back to that level. You add those two guys back. You struggled without them, which was to be expected. Their lineups that they were putting out there were 4A lineups. I mean, really, from the 5-hole down, you had 4A players for the most part, almost every single spot. Castellanos isn't a 4A player, but everybody after him, David Dahl, Cody Clements, Garrett Stubbs, those guys are not full-time Major League Baseball players.
Sure, but I asked the question because the Dodgers, without Mookie Betts, are averaging 5 runs per game in their last 12. They had the third most runs scored in Major League Baseball. So no matter who's on the mound, you're probably going to be in a scenario where you're going to have to keep up with the Joneses here.
Hey, look, the Dodgers, the Braves, the last 2 years, they've had better offenses than you had. That's not a secret. And we talk about this a lot. One of the reasons why the Dodgers and Braves have won over 100 games and just dominated is because the depth of their offensive lineup. That works in June, July, August, and you're beating up on whatever team's third, fourth, and fifth pitcher in the rotation. When you get the schedule and it's a June, Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday, 3-game set in Cincinnati, when you have a lineup like those teams have, you're going to pound out a lot of runs. The depth of their lineups is why they have been so good in the regular season. The difference is in the playoffs when they have to face really good pitching. You're not facing Colorado's pitching on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday night. You're not facing their third, fourth, and fifth guy. You're not facing the San Francisco third, fourth, and fifth guy, or San Diego's third, fourth, and fifth guy, or Pittsburgh's third, fourth, and fifth guy. you're not facing them in a playoff series. So the depth of their lineup makes them win 100-plus games because they're just going to pound out nights where they win 9-8, 10-7, 11-5, stuff like that. The Phillies, while their offense very good, the depth of their lineup I wouldn't say was the last 2 years as deep as Atlanta or the Dodgers. The Phillies, where they are really good, is obviously the middle of their lineup, the top of their lineup, and their pitching staff is better than both Atlanta's and the Dodgers.
I'm just trying to figure out, what is a realistic expectation for this series? Because you said now they can win 2 out of 3. They should be able to win 2 out of these 3 games against the Dodgers in this series to win the series at minimum, right? So, to me, the Dodgers are coming in here, one of the best offenses in baseball, against the Phillies team that you're hoping that Harper and Schwarber are the pick-me-up.
Of course, yeah. I mean, look, if you're going to win a World Series, it's why. Schwarber and Harper are a big part of it. I mean, anything this team does, you have to have Kyle Schwarber healthy. You have to have Bryce Harper healthy. Everything that is questioned about this team is tied to how good Bryce Harper is going to be. And the second guy, really maybe the third guy, Trey Turner, I think, has really this year, and that's another storyline, is emerged. I don't know, what's been a bigger story? Alec Boehm being an all-star and being I don't know if he still leads the league in RBIs, but being a top 3 RBI guy in all of baseball. He is 4th in the league in RBIs. He's 4th in majors in RBIs, 70. What's been the bigger story? The emergence of Alec Boehm, or I don't want to say the reemergence of Trey Turner, but that Trey Turner, I think you can make a strong argument that if Trey Turner did not miss 6 weeks of the season, he's probably under consideration for, I don't want to say MVP, maybe. Is that fair?
I don't think go MVP, but I do think the Boehm thing is the bigger story because I think that we all were hoping Boehm would take a step forward this year. You needed Boehm to take a step forward to help offset the pressure on the other guys, and I think that he is, can I say, exceeded expectations, right?
Well, I think there's a lot of people out there that just don't trust Boehm, don't like Boehm. He's not the, you think of a third baseman or a corner infielder, you think of like the 1980s and 90s, these big power guys who crushed 30 home runs.
Yeah.
And they're just not that guy anymore, really. I mean, so I think there's people out there that look at Boehm and don't really trust him, which is, I'm not saying unfair. I just think if you're watching him, you could see that he's got a much better approach. He uses all fields. He's kind of like, grown into the hitter he now is. He's kind of like comfortable with the hitter that he now is, where I think before he was trying to be a hitter that he wasn't. He was trying to appease the blockheads who need him to hit 30 to 35 home runs because of the position that he plays. It's almost like, Trey Turner, on the other hand. Trey Turner, look, last year he came here. He had a solid year, 266, 26 homers, and I think people would say that was a disappointment, and I think those people would be right. 266, 26 homers, it's a good year. But you were expecting more, and it's he was off to a terrible start. It wasn't until we all know what happened in August, he just kind of took off. Now, he has been one of the best hitters in the game the entire season. Now, he's played 51 games. He missed 6 weeks. He's hitting .335, a .381 on-base percentage. He's got 7 homers, 23 RBI. He's actually stole double-digit bases in the 51 games that he has played. He has been an outstanding player for this team. Now, he missed 6 weeks of the season. Who knows what his numbers would look like had he played those 6 weeks. But, man, he has had a tremendous year. So when the dust settles with the Phillies and you get Harper back and Schwarber back, what it really does now is it resettles the lineup. The lineup that they had was insignificant, and everybody was out of place to compensate.
It was a duct tape lineup.
Yeah, moving Stott to the leadoff hole, not a great option right now because, quite frankly, we can have a conversation about how disappointing Stott has been.
Yep.
Having to use, Brandon Marsh in the 4-hole some days, not conducive to winning a lot of baseball games. But
it's a nice way of putting it.
But to be fair, they kind of persevered through it. They figured out a way to just kind of stay afloat. They won, 3 in a row at one point. They won 4 out of 5 at one point with that lineup. So I think the Phillies showed that, hey, we have the depth to kind of keep it going. But when we get our guys back now, this kind of launches them back off that they should, I hope anyway, win this series and reopen up the lead in the National League East. Now, this text message by Mike in EHT is funny and it should be read. And I get it. What pictures does Christian Pache have that he remains on a big league roster? Mike, I would say there was a couple years ago, I think it was it Odubel Herrera or somebody? It might have been Michael Martinez.
Well, Odubel Herrera seemed to be here forever.
Well, he was a Rule 5 guy one year.
Right.
And I felt like they kept him on the team the whole year. But I can't remember. So anyway, there was a guy on the team. I can't remember who it was. And I'm like, listen, I think it was a Rule 5 guy. And I'm like, you can't just keep a Rule 5 guy on the roster if you think you're a World Series team. Just because you want to hold on to this guy, you're doing a disservice to the team. Right now, I don't understand the Christian Pache thing, okay? I get it. Pache, for those of you who don't know who Christian Pache was and where they got him from, Christian Pache was a very highly touted prospect, okay? He was like the Braves' #1 prospect in their system years ago. It has not worked out, okay? He has been in Atlanta. They got rid of him. They traded him to Oakland. Freaking the A's, okay? The A's let go of a 23-year-old kid because they said he can't play. All right? So I get it. The Phillies said, hey, this guy was a really high-touted prospect. We think if we get him, let our guys work with him. I have no problem with them taking a chance. And by the way, in Oakland, he hit 166. In Atlanta, he hit 119. And in Philadelphia, in 2 years, he's hit 216. So congratulations. You have actually made him a better player. Unfortunately, the better player, we're talking about a guy who hit 166, and now he's up to 216. He can't play. It's time to move on from Pache. I get it. He's a good defensive player. He has a lot of potential. You can't keep waiting on a potential for a team that wants to win the World Series. That roster spot's too valuable on this team. Why? You can keep him on the team if you have a luxury spot, a defensive replacement. Well, this team doesn't have that luxury because your left fielder can't hit lefties. Your center fielder can't hit at all. So you can't have another guy who can't hit at all sitting on the bench. You have to make a decision between Pache and Rojas and which guy you value more. And it's obvious the answer should be Rojas there. So Pache's got to go.
I want to confirm that your memory was correct. It was Odubel Herrera who, during the 2022 season, had played center field for the Phillies before they acquired Brandon Marsh. They released Herrera on August 6th of that year.
I'm not sure that's the team I was thinking about, though.
Well, that was the year they went to the World Series.
Yeah, but I think there was, because Herrera had already been on the team. There was a guy that was a Rule 5 player that they just kept on the team because he was a Rule 5 guy. And it was like, all right, enough already with this Rule 5 guy. It's time to release him back to where he has to go. And they just held on to him all season long because he was a Rule 5 guy.
Do you mean the pitcher Noah Song, who they kept transferring from injured list to
This is
injured
like,
list?
I think this is going back to like the last era, like the 10, 11, somewhere in that range.
Oh, further back.
Yeah. It was. But they had a guy that they just kept on the team because he was a Rule 5 pick. And it's not that Pache's a Rule 5 pick. He does not. The Rule 5, for the people who don't know what the hell I'm talking about, if you get a Rule 5 guy, he has to stay on your big league roster the whole year. Otherwise, you have to send him back to the team that you took him from. Pache is not a Rule 5 guy. Guess what? You can designate him for assignment, and no one will sign him. And if you want to send him to AAA, send him to AAA. I guarantee you, no one's signing Christian Pache.
Michael Martinez was a Rule 5 pick, by the way.
I think that might have been Michael Martinez.
The year before the Rule 5 pick was David Herndon.
Nah. I think it was a center fielder or an outfielder. Could be wrong.
Martinez, I mean, there was 2012.
Where do you have a list of Rule 5 guys?
I do. Phillies Rule 5 history.
Give me a couple of names.
Well, Michael Martinez was 2010. Do you want to guess where they got him from?
Michael Martinez, I want to say, came from the Pirates?
Nationals.
Okay.
The year before him was David Herndon, 2009.
Not Herndon.
In 2012, it was Ender Indiciarte.
No, because he turned out to be a pretty good player. The Braves picked him up.
Yep, that's correct. He was also, Indiciarte was a 2017 All-Star as well.
Who was before Herndon back that way?
Bobby Mosbach.
Nope.
Travis Blakely.
Nope.
Lincoln Holtzcomb.
Nope. So how far back are you now?
I'm at 20. They actually had 2 Rule 5 picks in 2007. 2006, it was Adam Donache. I can't believe some of these names actually exist.
I'll go the opposite way after the last guy you said.
By the way, Shane Victorino was a 2004.
Yeah, Shane Victorino was a very famous Rule 5 pick.
Okay, the other direction. Let's scroll back up. Kevin Munson was 2013. Andy Oliver was 2014. So was Odubel Herrera in 2014. 2015 was Daniel Stumpf.
Nope.
He had a 10 ERA.
It might have been Martinez that they just kept holding on to. Because
2015 was Tyler Goodell. Remember him?
Yeah, I do remember him from Tampa.
2017 was Nick Birdie. 2018 was Drew Jackson.
Nope.
And 2019 was Vimal Machin.
It's got to be Martinez then.
I'm assuming it's Martinez the way you were, saying the previous era.
Todd and Brigantine says it has to be Martinez. He managed to avoid every roster move, and he also avoided every ground ball hit to him at second. He couldn't hit or field. He was this era's Steve Jeltz.
There you go.
Yep.
I'm going through this list of Phillies Rule 5 pick. Did you know Todd Pratt was a Rule 5 pick?
No.
He was a Rule 5 pick in 1991. That worked out pretty well. So did Dave Hollins in 89.
I did know that Hollins was. Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. Well, the activation of Schwarber and Harper kind of threw me off where I was going, but we'll get back to that direction. Some are saying that Team USA basketball is maybe the best Olympic basketball roster ever, and why I think it's a good idea for Joel Embiid to play in the Olympics. That's coming up here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN.
Brought to you by NHTSA.
This is the story of the one. As a maintenance engineer, he hears things differently. To the untrained ear, everything on his shop floor might sound fine, but he can hear gears grinding or a belt slipping. So he steps in to fix the problem at hand before it gets out of hand. And he knows Grainger's got the right product he needs to get the job done, which is music to his ears. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
With Mike Gill.
Do I have everybody's attention now?
On 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
3:30 Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app, streaming live on the X platform at 97.3 ESPN. Use the hashtag SB Live. I'm Mike Gill. Sixers Summer League wins last night, 102-92. Ricky Council had a big game. 29 points, 8 rebounds. He was like bonkers in the fourth quarter. Rookie Jared McCain. I'm going to get into him in just a little bit. But 3 takeaways from the game. All right. I know it's Summer League. We always talk about the Summer League. I love watching Summer League hoops. You don't take a whole heck of a lot from them. Take it with a grain of salt. But there are a couple things that do stand out about the Summer League game last night. By the way, Sixers Summer League plays again tonight, right?
Yes. They're back on, I think they're on ESPN2 tonight. I have to double check that.
Well, here's my quick takeaways from the Summer League, okay?
Yeah.
Like what I saw from McCain. Forget the step to the basket. He's got a nice first step. He gets to the basket. To me, what I saw from him last night is a guy diving for loose balls, showing the toughness, has the shot. I don't know if he's going to help this team this year. I hope he finds a rotational spot on this team. I do. I hope Jared McCain. Can Jared McCain be akin to what Maxey was his rookie year? Is that asking too much? I mean, Maxey was a 20th, 22nd. He was like a
20th pick.
Something deeper, yeah. Is it asking too much to think that McCain can be similar to what Maxey was his rookie year?
I don't think it's crazy because McCain is going to be coming off the bench for this team, and you're not asking him to be a star. You're not asking him to be a 32 minutes a night guy. You're just asking him to be a role player, and I think that he is certainly capable of that.
Tyrese Maxey as a rookie. Now, I'm saying, like, if you're listening and you're saying, dude, that's asking way too much. Maxey as a rookie, okay? Played in 61 games. He started 8. He averaged 15 minutes a game. That's all I'm asking, about 15 minutes.
Fair.
And he averaged 8 points a game, 2 assists, shot like a 3.5 a game. He made 30%, by the way. He has come a long way.
Long way.
His first year, he took 1.7 threes, shot 30%. Last year, he shot 8 threes a game and hit 37%. Last year, 2 years ago, he shot 6 threes a game and hit 43%.
That's wild.
For his career, he's a 39% three-point shooter. So, I go back to Tyrese Maxey's rookie season.
Mm-hmm.
Played 15 minutes a game, scored 8 points, 2 assists, just was a nice energy player off the bench. And you were kind of like, man, this guy shows some flashes. Can Jared McCain be akin to what Maxey's role was as a rookie? And if that's the case, I think you got to win. I think you found a winning. And what McCain showed me last night, now, this could be one game, Summer League, it is what it is. The one thing I took away, everybody's talking about the basket where he just blew right past somebody. It's a Summer League. No one's playing defense. Or some people are trying to play defense but aren't very good at playing defense.
There's that, yes.
There's that. What I saw was him sliding and diving on the floor in a Summer League game. You're diving and sliding on the floor in a Summer League game, man, I better hope that translates over to – and that's what this team needs. They need that guy that has the energy and sliding on the floor and keeping plays alive and all that stuff. That's one. All right, so I like what I saw from McCain in his first game last night.
That's a big one right there.
He's the first pick. Maxey, by the way, was the 21st pick in the draft. So his rookie season, started 8 games, played in 61, played 15 minutes a game. If Jared McCain plays 15 minutes a game, is that a win? I think so.
I think so, yeah.
If that's his role, if his role is similar to what Maxey's was as a rookie, I think that's a win for you. I think, okay? Number 2. By the way, last night, McCain was 6 of 15, 0 of 6 from three-point range. That number's going to, be much better. So that's even more encouraging to me is that he was 0 for 6, and I still liked his night. Because listen to the rest of his night. 6 rebounds, 3 assists, 2 steals. He did the dirty work. That's what stood out to me more than anything else was he did the dirty work, got rebounds. And everybody talked about him as a small guy, but gets rebounds. You saw it last night. All right, that's 1.
That's 1.
2. Adem Bona is your second-round pick. And of all the guys on the court, I thought he stood out almost the most. Why? He has the intuition. Rebounding is an intuition, okay? It's a knack of being in the right spot and the timing of being able to time when it's time to leave your feet to go get that ball. Not jumping too soon, not jumping in time, having the knack and intuition, okay? That, to me, is what Adem Bona showed last night, a knack. And in 24 minutes, 7 rebounds, 2 on the offensive end, a block, or 2 blocks, a steal, 7 points, insignificant. His scoring is insignificant. But what Adem Bona showed me last night is, all right, there's an energy guy. That's a guy who has athleticism, out the yin-yang, and he knows how to harness his athleticism. Sometimes guys are too athletic. They don't know how to change gears. Bona, to me, last night is a guy, like Paul Reed would be in that category. A guy who was so athletic, he didn't know how to change gears. He only knew how to play one gear. And sometimes that's great. Regular season Tuesday night in February, and other nights not so good. Playoff game. Now, I don't know if Adem Bona is going to be able to be a playoff guy, but he will be the third center, I would imagine, behind Drummond.
Yes, for sure.
Okay. That was number 2 last night.
That was number 2. He was a second-round pick as well.
Yeah. Number 3. Ricky Council the 4th.
Not a third-round pick.
He has to be in the Sixers rotation. Okay? I know it's a summer league game. I don't know what more this guy could do to show I am playing. I wouldn't be surprised if Ricky Council the 4th is one of these guys that plays like 1 or 2 summer games and then you don't see him again because they're like, all right, you're way above the level that you should be playing. Last night, he was outstanding. And he was so much better than everybody on the floor. He should have been playing more last year. He was a more productive player than Tobias Harris. Absolutely. I feel like Ricky Council would have helped this team in Game 7 or 6 against the Knicks more than Tobias Harris. Now, Tobias Harris didn't score, so I may have contributed more.
It's true.
But he played 32 games last year. And in those 32 games, he always did something. He always provided something. He could shoot the 3, 37%, just as much as Tobias Harris can. He scored 5 points. He grabs a couple rebounds. He gets to the line. He gets a poke and a steal. He's an energy guy. He's all over the court. And then last night in the game, he scores 19 in the 4th, and he goes 5 of 10 from three-point range. So if you were saying to the guy, hey, Ricky, and by the way, he had 8 rebounds last night as well, 29 points, 8 rebounds, 5 threes. So if at the end of the season, the Sixers said to him, hey, Ricky, we like your game. We like what you bring. Go work on this. And if they said, go work on your three-point shooting, and he came back and hit 5 of 10 from three-point range, I think he said to the Sixers, you gave me a task, and I completed it. Now, a summer league game in Utah is definitely different than on Tuesday night in February, which is different from a playoff game. But to me, with the roster currently as is, Ricky Council has to be a rotational player. Now, that might change if they add a couple more pieces, but if you're looking at it right now, all right, looking at it right now, I got Tyrese Maxey, I got Caleb Martin, I got Joel Embiid, I got Paul George, I got Kelly Oubre. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. Those 5. I got Drummond as my backup 5. I got Eric Gordon as another guy off the bench. Right. I got Jared McCain possibly playing 15 minutes. That's 8. And I think Ricky Council right now has to be 9.
Right now, yes.
On this team as constructed. Now, I don't know who else they're going to go out there and bring in.
That's the question that we don't have the answer to yet.
And you might say, well, of course, you only have 9 guys. He has to be in the rotation. My point is, I don't know that there's a guy available that you bring in that I am usurping what I think Council can bring to this team.
Yeah, the larger point that you're making, and if I'm mishearing you, just correct me and just interrupt me. But from what you're saying is that you're saying that this guy has shown a significant amount of growth from a guy who was already a solid contributor last year. He is now getting better. He is earning his way to more playing time.
Yeah, he, to me, at 6'6", and the energy he brings is a guy that should get 15 to 20 minutes a game. But it's like I said about Jared McCain.
Right.
You need those guys on your team.
You need them.
Absolutely. All right. The Olympics. When does the Olympics start?
I thought it was July 26th. Let me look at it.
All right. Well, we're still a couple weeks away. So some are saying that this American basketball men's team. By the way, did you know that the women's Olympic team is playing the WNBA All-Star team?
Yes, that's the All-Star game this year.
That is going to shatter viewing records.
Absolutely. By the way, it is July 26th. I can't believe I remembered that.
That game will be the most watched basketball game probably of the year. Don't you think?
I'm trying to find the date for the women's.
I just heard
game.
that today, that the women's WNBA All-Stars are playing the Olympic team.
Yeah, I knew they
Now,
were playing.
how many
I still
people on the
don't
Olympic
think.
team would be WNBA All-Stars?
All of them.
So who's left?
Caitlin Clark, Angel Reese.
So this is like the veterans versus the rookies?
Basically.
Is Kelsey Plum on the Olympic team?
I think she's on the Olympic team, but I'm pulling up the full roster right now, so I can give you.
I'm intrigued in that game. So some are saying that this is the greatest roster ever for the Olympics. I'll give you the roster. Bam Adebayo, Devin Booker, Steph Curry, Anthony Davis, Kevin Durant, Anthony Edwards, Joel Embiid, Tyrese Halliburton, Drew Holiday, LeBron James, Kawhi Leonard, Jason Tatum. It's a very good team. There's no way that team's better than the Dream Team.
Now, I want to ask, who are the people who are saying this is the greatest or this is one of the greatest?
A lot of people, I guess, are saying that America has assembled arguably the greatest roster ever for the Olympics. They're calling it Dream Team 2.0.
Okay, so idiots who we can't fully identify. Got it.
Well, I can't say that. I mean, it could be well-respected media people.
Well, maybe they shouldn't be
You're
respected
saying
media
idiots
people.
that we can identify. I didn't say that. Nor did I call them idiots. I just don't like their opinion.
I'm calling them idiots.
Bam Adebayo is a nice player.
guy.
He's not better than any player on the
Absolutely
the
not.
Dream Team.
Christian Laettner might be better than Bam Adebayo.
Tyrese Halliburton's a nice player. He's not better than any player on the Dream Team.
Not even close.
Drew Holiday is a really, really solid player. He couldn't carry the water for any of the players on the
You
Dream
haven't
Team.
named me anyone who makes the 92 or 96
Well, I mean,
teams.
Kevin Durant probably makes the team.
He makes the team as a
LeBron
bench player.
James makes the team.
He makes the team. Maybe he's
This
starter.
version of Kawhi Leonard.
No.
All right, just to go back real quick to the Dream Team. Charles Barkley, Larry Bird. Now, remember, some of these guys were at the end of their careers.
They were. Larry Bird was at the end, so was Magic.
Clyde Drexler, Patrick Ewing, Magic Johnson, who was retired, by the way.
Right, came out of retirement for the Olympics.
Michael Jordan, Karl Malone, Chris Mullin, Scottie Pippen, David Robinson, John Stockton, and Christian Laettner, who was at Duke at the time. So not Christian Laettner, the NBA player.
Right.
Christian Laettner,
The all-time
Duke
great
player.
college player.
Yes. I mean, Jason Tatum doesn't make this team.
I mean, for example, if you put LeBron on the team, what are you doing? You're taking off Chris Mullin? Is that what you're doing here? Like, if you're putting Kevin Durant on the team, who are you taking
I
off?
mean, there's certainly guys I think LeBron James is good enough to be on the Dream Team roster. But, I mean, LeBron would be Magic Johnson.
Yes.
All right?
Durant would be Clyde Drexler.
They don't really have a Jordan. I mean, Anthony Edwards would be Jordan.
Very young Jordan.
Yeah, exactly. That's my point.
Yeah.
Devin Booker would be Chris Mullin.
Ish, yeah.
Bam Adebayo, he's not better than Charles Barkley.
Definitely not.
Anthony Edwards, I'm sorry, he's not better than Patrick Ewing. Halliburton's not better than anybody.
The 92 Dream Team wins this game against the current team like 120 to like 85.
By the way, the select team.
The one with Cooper Flagg?
Yes. Almost beat that team yesterday. Now, I get the whole story of the Dream Team was somebody almost beat them and like yada,
The select
yada, yada.
team almost beat them
Yes.
in 92, yeah.
So, maybe that's not a good comparison.
Maybe not.
But the original Dream Team, I'm sorry.
Legends.
These teams aren't close.
First of all, Jordan would walk onto the court and basically pick out someone to guard and say he's done for the night. So whoever he guards, he's off the board.
Now you go in John Stockton or Steph Curry.
I would, in this case, go Steph.
Me too. Yeah, like some of these guys, like if you're trying to say, okay, this guy or that guy, you could say they're better.
But you can't do it with more than 3 guys. Outside of Durant,
Well,
LeBron, and Curry.
Joel Embiid.
Listen, Joel Embiid's a phenomenal talent, but you're not taking David Robinson or Patrick Ewing off that team.
Yeah, they were the 2 centers, Robinson and Ewing.
And people forget how great Robinson was.
He was awesome. He was a defensive-minded center who could also score, by the way.
Yeah.
But he was a defensive,
monster.
Yeah, I mean, there's just not, Bam Adebayo, to me, is, out of place. He's a hustler, he's a good player, but he's not a, is he a Hall of Famer?
No.
All right, well.
Do you want to hear the WNBA All-Star matchup here?
Yeah.
Okay, so for the All-Stars, this is just the WNBA All-Star team. DeWanna Bonner, Aaliyah Boston, Caitlin Clark, Alicia Gray, D'Arcia Hamby, Brianna Jones, Jonquel Jones. Jonquel Jones, Bob, is former league MVP, I should know for you, Mike. Kayla McBride, Kelsey Mitchell, Arike Unguale, who's a former first overall pick, and Nneka Unguale, and Angel Reese. So basically, you have some pretty talented girls on just the All-Star team. But then you have the national team. Nafessa Collier, Keela Copper, Chelsea Gray, Brittany Griner, people forget about her, Sabrina Ionescu, Jewel Lloyd, Kelsey Plum, Brianna Stewart, Diana Taurasi, Alyssa Thomas, Asia Wilson, Jackie Young. So basically, it's all the women who would have made the All-Star team, and then it's all the women who were left over.
So when's that game?
That game is going to be Saturday, July 20th, prime time.
I would imagine.
On ABC.
Going to have monster ratings.
That might be the most watched women's game of all time.
It might be the most watched basketball game of the year.
I'm going to watch. You can bet that.
Mike, you could take the 92 Dream Team out of retirement today, and they beat this Dream Team 2.0 in the best of 7. I don't know about that.
I don't know about that. I don't know if Larry can move anymore.
Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. Why isn't PG-13 on the Olympic team? I don't know. I mean, fair question, I guess.
I don't know.
He was on one of the Olympics. He's been on. Well, you know why? He was on that Olympic team, and that's where he broke his leg.
It was, yes.
Yeah, he had that horrible injury.
I'll tell you why PG-13 isn't on the team.
He's also a free agent. He probably he was a little bit more worried about where his next job was. Yeah. Coming up, I'll tell you why I think Embiid should be on the Olympic team and play. A lot of people don't want him to play. I'll tell you why he should next.
You're listening to...
This is the story of the one. As head of maintenance at a concert hall, he knows the show must always go on. That's why he works behind the scenes, ensuring every light is working, the HVAC is humming, and his facility shines. With Grainger's supplies and solutions for every challenge he faces, plus 24/7 customer support, his venue never misses a beat. Call quickgrainger.com or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
With Mike Gill.
And it just keeps getting better.
On 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
So a lot of people have been complaining that Joel's always hurt and he shouldn't play in the Olympics. Guess what? You're all wrong. Joel needs to play in the Olympics. Joel spent all this time trying to get Paul George and getting players around him. And that's all great. Joel needs to be around the greatest players in the game. We just talked about some people think this is the greatest team, better than the Dream Team, which it's not. But Joel Embiid needs to be at practice where he's with these other guys and he can see what it takes to be great. Jason Tatum, champion. Kawhi Leonard, champion. LeBron James, champion. Drew Holiday, champion. Kevin Durant, champion. Anthony Davis, champion. Seth Curry, champion. Bam Adebayo, close. Let those two battle it out in practice. Let Joel Embiid be around all of these guys who are champions and can give him the Barkley treatment. He's the only MVP that's never got to a conference finals in NBA history. Let them break his stones. Yo, when are you going to get to the championship round there, Joel? He needs this. Let him be around greatness. The Sixers need it. And you know what? He gets a couple more bites of the apple. And being around these guys might make him take a bigger bite. By the way, there's some reports that for Team USA, Steve Kerr is pretty much using him down in the low post. That he's not going to use him in the same way that Nick Nurse and Doc Rivers and Brett Brown have used him as a perimeter player. Sounds like Steve Kerr wants him more down in the low post. So it'll be interesting to see how different Joel's game is in the international game. And maybe this gives him another level of offense, another layer of offense. And that's only a good thing for Joel Embiid. So I'll take Joel playing in the Olympics. But stay healthy, my friend. Football at
97.3 ESPN presents The Sports Bash with Mike Gill. It's time for Football at 4 with Adam Kaplan, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast.
I give my heart and soul to this franchise, as so many of us do.
Now live, this is Football at 4.
Football at 4, powered by the Inside the Birds podcast, which you can get on all podcasting platforms. And don't forget their YouTube channel. Just search Inside the Birds for all of their great off-season content. Pretty soon, off-season content will turn into training camp content. And it's all brought to you by Bet365. Whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. We had a fun conversation with Adam last week on the AFC side of things. Today, we're going to flip it over to the NFC side of things on some of the conference favorites over there. I was reading something today about how many legitimate Super Bowl contenders there are. They came up with 12 teams as legitimate Super Bowl contenders. Well, how many of them come from the NFC? Let's take a look now with the updated divisional odds now that everything is getting ready to kick off. Somebody reports this weekend, Adam. Somebody reports this weekend.
Yeah, the Ravens. Yeah, I was talking to the Jets last week, and I know they're because they're a team that brings the rookies and injured players first, and then the veterans come in 5 days later. So yeah, it's now I understand, and we'll talk more about this when the Eagles report on the 23rd. The first 5 days is that acclimation period, so the competition really can't start fully until they get out of the 5 day period. And this is not an NFLPA decision. I'm talking the league. It was really the league studying sports science, and a lot of the soft tissue injuries, Mike, for decades happened within the first week of training camp. So they came out with a 5 day period. So just understand, like, hard information on training camp battles, you won't hear about it more until the next week.
Well, obviously, we're getting excited about the start of training camp. It's a little soon, though. Oh, yeah. Did you know, by the way, all right, yep, August 1st is the Hall of Fame game. Doesn't that sound ridiculously close?
Yeah, who's playing it? Is it the Bears? Who's playing in it?
The Hall of Fame game this year, August 1st, is it Houston and the Bears?
Sounds right. Yeah, but yeah, well, as a matter of fact, so the Bears report, Mike, early next week on the 16th, and the veterans come in 3 days later. The Texans.
Yeah, it's the Bears and Texans, but it's the Bears and Texans.
Ooh.
Yeah.
It's too bad. That's interesting. It's too bad that it's a preseason game and who knows if any of the talented players will play for either team. But the Bears are like Matt Eberflus. For the odds makers have him being the best odds to be coach of the year. It's really hard to believe, but that's what the odds say.
All right, well, let's take a look at some odds, and let's start with the Eagles in the NFC East there. You look at that division. Eagles, right now, kind of a favorite, minus 120. They're the only team that has the minus in that division. Obviously, they are the favorite. You got the Cowboys at plus 150. Your buddies over there in Washington, the Commandos, as you like to call them, plus 1,100. Yeah. And the Giants, who will have episode 2 of Hard Knocks tonight, they have the worst odds, the lowest odds of any team in the NFC.
Yeah, at plus 1,400. And the Patriots, we were talking about this last week. The Patriots at plus 2,500. Nobody thinks they have a chance. In fact, their win total, the Patriots, is 4.5. But let's get back to the Eagles. Yeah, so the Eagles are the clear favorite by the odds. The Eagles are minus 120. So the way it works is if you bet $12, you get $10 back. Or if you bet 120, you get 100 back. Mike, I'm not saying the Eagles shouldn't be the favorite. They would be mine right now. But it's just interesting that it's been 20 years since we've had a repeat winner in this division. It only has 4 teams. It's ridiculous, but it's true. when the Eagles won 4 in a row, 1 through 04. So, yeah, the Cowboys won it last year, so naturally, and really the odds will tell you. I mean, we knew this without looking, but it's crazy. So the Cowboys are plus 150. So it's obvious the odds makers think, and so does the public, because these bets have been hit a little bit. The Eagles were actually plus 110 to start when we were there, I think, in May, but now they're minus 120. Again, depends which book you're looking at. Cowboys at plus 150. And then look at the jump, Mike. Look at the drop here. The Commanders are plus 1,100. Now, I know there's going to be a team, Mike, and it happens just about every year that comes out of nowhere. Like, I think the Rams in Sean McVay's first year made the playoffs. Someone's going to shock the world here. I'm not saying it's going to be the Commanders. They're plus 1,100. Someone is going to make the playoffs that we don't expect. And then the Giants, as you said, Mike, are plus 1,400.
Yeah, I keep wondering, as we talked about last week when we did the AFC side, there's somebody that goes from worst to first. Now, they didn't finish worst last year, but are they a team, like the Houston Texans with the second overall pick, that quarter? If Jaden Daniels is what Stroud was, is the rest of that roster good enough to surprise people? That, to me, would be the question for them.
Yeah, so on our first of 4 series with Greg Cosell from NFL Films, we did a breakdown of the division, which dropped last week with Washington. And Greg is super high in Jaden Daniels, on your point. Like, he thinks Jaden Daniels is fantastic. And what I had heard is his processing is so good, he just sees it really, really well, like C.J. Stroud, by the way. And by the way, you can throw out these, that's whatever it's called, the CT2, whatever that test, the intelligence test, to be able to, whatever teams use to determine how it's one of the intelligence tests, Mike. Stroud was not good, but thank goodness the Texans didn't care about that, because not only was he Offensive Rookie of the Year, he was special. One of the best rookie quarterbacks I've ever seen. Now, could Daniels do that? We'll see. They're going to have Cliff Kingsbury in there. They're going to have a spread offense, which will help him. But that's a team, Mike. Again, I'm not saying they're going to be a wild card, but that's a team to keep an eye on. And I'm a little surprised that their odds aren't even worse, because the Panthers, will get to them. They're only plus 1,200. Which surprised me. You would think it would be way worse.
Yeah, you're right about that. So the fact that the Giants are as bad as they are, plus 1,400, a little bit of a surprise there. So Eagles are the favorites, then Dallas, the Commanders, and the Giants. That's the order in the NFC East. Let's go to the North, where there's a lot of interesting teams here. A lot of people think the Lions are a Super Bowl team. A lot of people think the Packers could be a Super Bowl team. You just talked about the Bears. People like that team as a sleeper. The Vikings have been very good the last couple of years. They're plus 900 in the North.
This one is interesting. So naturally, the Lions would be the pick, or the favorite, the betting favorite at plus 130. In fact, if you like the Lions, get them on them now, because they could, by the time the season starts, they could be minus 120, minus 130. Packers are plus 200. Now, why is it so tight between the two? Because if you really study the Packers, their problem has not been their offense. Jordan Love was phenomenal last season. 36 combined touchdowns, 32 passing, 4 rushing. Their defense was really underachieved. I know that their defense definitely shocked the world in the playoffs. They smoked Dallas, but they fired the defensive coordinator, Joe Barry. They brought in the Boston College head coach, Jeff Hafley, and they're going to change their defense. As I understand, they're going to go to more of a 43 front, 43 looks. They have the talent to do it. This team is going to take a jump. I would agree with those odds at plus 200. The Packers will be better than you think. And the one that stuns me, though, man, the respect the Bears are getting. A rookie quarterback, Caleb Williams, who's super gifted, first pick overall. He's got a lot of work to do. But now they've added Keenan Allen at receiver. DJ Moore's with them a second year. They have Roma Dunze, their first-round receiver. So they're loaded there. They're going to be good at running back. DeAndre Swift is there, coming off a great season with the Eagles. Defensively, the problem is their pass rush. That's why they're not going to win the division. Now, could they go from what they were last year to potentially being a wild card team? That's one to keep an eye on.
Yeah, I think that division is going to be a lot of fun. I think if you look at, and by the way, as you just said it, you got plus money on the Lions. If you really like them, get some good value there. Yep. Packers at plus 200. And the Bears, of course, they added a lot of interesting pieces to that. You already had Moore. They now got Keenan Allen. They got Swift now. It's an interesting offense for, a lot of times a guy like Caleb Williams comes into a team that doesn't have a lot of talent. Well, this Bears offense actually has pretty good talent for him. So at plus 350. They're kind of interesting there. All right, let's go to the South, which I don't know. They think the Falcons are a clear-cut favorite. I think people might argue that, but minus 120, that's a clear-cut favorite over the Buccaneers at plus 300, the Saints at plus 350, and then the Panthers a long shot at plus 1,200.
Yeah, that surprised me, Mike. I got to be honest with you. When the Falcons stunned me at minus 120, the fact that they're minus money, and I'll say this, the odds makers after the draft was actually before the draft that the Falcons were the clear favorite. But it's been widened between them and the Bucs. I'll probably wind up picking the Bucs over them. Kirk Cousins coming off the Achilles at 36 years old. We got to see if he can do it, Mike. But they're loaded on offense, Mike. They're completely changed their offense. Arthur Smith is out as the head coach and the play caller. They're going to go with a West Coast scheme. The West Coast offense, Mike, is the scheme that wins in the National Football League. With the Sean McVay disciples, Kyle Shanahan disciples, all of them are doing well, Mike, as play callers. So Zach Robinson, a former draftee quarterback of the Bengals, you might remember him from Texas Tech. This guy's pretty gifted as a play caller. I think he could be good. He's pretty smart. It's first-time play caller, but I've heard talking to people who work with him. He's really smart, so we'll see how this goes with the Falcons. Defensively, they overachieved last season. They're not very talented, but Raheem Morris, the defensive head coach, comes in there. We'll see how it goes. And then when you look at the Bucs, Mike Evans is back. Baker Mayfield is back. The problem is I like this scheme that Dave Canales is coming in with. Liam Cohen. Liam Cohen worked with the Rams. He also has worked with Baker Mayfield briefly 3 years ago when Baker was with the Rams, so they know each other. This is a West Coast offense. Defensively, they've got issues at cornerback. That is definitely a problem. Their pass rush is inconsistent. I think it's real tight. I think it's way tighter than the odds makers have between the Falcons and the Bucs. And the Saints, it's Derek Carr, Mike. Derek Carr's a check-down quarterback. He's risk-averse. They've underachieved on Josh Allen. Let's call it like it is. They should be better than they are. They just have not gotten there yet. I get it, why they're plus 350 right behind the Bucs. And the Panthers, I thought they'd be lower than plus 1,200. They've added a lot of talent on offense defensively. They're well-coached. That might be a 6 or 7 win team. Mike, we're not surprised if they won that many games.
Yeah, the quarterback Bryce Young, obviously number 1 pick last year, going to need to take a big step forward there to justify being the number 1 overall pick. We go to the West, which dominated by the Niners, minus 200. Is there any competitor there? Some people like the Rams, others not so high on the Rams, plus 325. Seahawks have kind of been like a mid-level team, plus 750. I hear a lot of people liking the Cardinals this year. That's a pretty long shot at plus 1,200.
Yeah, let's look at the Niners first at minus 200. They're the best team in the National Football League. I don't look. I know the Chiefs are back-to-back winners, but the Niners are the best roster. They're loaded. They're super deep at receiver now. They've never been a big 11 personnel team. They're more 12, which means 2 receivers, 2 backs, 2 tight ends and 1 back. Defensively, I was stunned that they did not draft a corner in the first round. They did draft Renardo Green out of Florida State. I know they're very high on, and they drafted Ricky Pearsall out of the University of Florida, which surprised a lot of people in the first round at receiver when they already had Ayuk, who is looking for a new deal. Deebo Samuel, Juwan Jennings, who they re-signed. And they also drafted receiver Jacob Cowling in the 4th round. So that surprised a lot of people. But the majority of their starters on both sides of the football, Mike, are coming back. So I found that to be a kind of why I have them as the best team. The Rams, man, Aaron Donald retiring, that's a big deal. I know Kobe Turner played opposite him. Is a good football player, but that hurts. Jared Versus comes in there as a first-round pick. He's a nice pass rusher, nothing special. Secondary, they're not very good at corner. This is a nice team. 9 or 10 wins. They're not winning the division. And then the Seahawks, wow, Pete Carroll out after 13 years, Mike. John Snyder, the GM now, has personnel control. Didn't have it. Pete Carroll had it. Ryan Grubb brings it to West Coast, sort of like a quasi-spread West Coast scheme as their offensive coordinator. It's more of a spread offense. I like it. Defensively, they've been disappointing. Got to think Mike McDonald will run his scheme. It's more of a 34 front. They're not very good at certain positions. They got to get a better pass rush. It's probably going to be a 7 or 8 win team. Year 1, maybe 9 at most. They're plus 750. And the Cardinals had on paper a great draft. They had 10 picks. I like what they did, Mike, but they're in a start-over program. They have a lot of work to do, but I like the draft.
Yeah, a lot of people seem to like them. And by the way, people forget the quarterback was hurt there for most of the year last year. When he came back, they actually had somewhat of a competent offense. And a couple of years ago, people forget. I think just because Kyler Murray is one of those guys that maybe I don't trust. He was like the leading candidate for MVP about 2 years ago. So now we'll see what he could do with that offense. I don't know if that's a playoff team quite yet, but definitely more interesting. And he's got Marvin Harrison down there. Should be interesting to see how that all plays out. So there you go. We'll take a look at the NFC. Minus 120, the Niners are the favorite. Minus 200, by the way, the Niners. 120 for the Falcons. Plus 130, the Lions. And the Eagles are minus 120. They are your 4 favorites to win the division. The training camp will start here shortly, and we'll have more on Football at 4 with Adam Kaplan and the guys from the Inside the Birds podcast. Thanks, Adam.
Thank you.
All right, Adam Kaplan, everybody here, breaking it all down. Football at 4 on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. So I like it. Let's take a little bit deeper look. Got some of these odds out there I want to throw into the mix here. All right, Josh? Broncos starting quarterback week 1. Bo Nix, Jared Stidham, Zach Wilson. Who's the favorite?
I'm going to preface this by saying I don't know if I'm going to get many of these right, because who I think might be the starter might not be who the odds makers think. I think the odds should be for Jared Stidham.
Stidham's plus 400, 4-1.
Okay. That's where I would go, because he's the one who's been working out with the receivers in the offseason.
Bo Nix is the favorite, minus 300. Zach Wilson, plus 550.
Sounds like there's some sucker bets going on here.
Giants starting quarterback, week 1. Daniel Jones, Drew Lock, Tommy DeVito.
Daniel Jones should be the favorite.
Minus 1,500.
That makes sense.
Yeah. Drew Lock plus 600. Patriots starting quarterback, week 1. Drake May, Jacoby Brissett.
I would go with Brissett.
Minus 275.
Makes sense.
Raiders.
So far, the only one that's going to get you any value right now is Stidham.
Raiders. Gardner Minshew, Aiden O'Connell.
I would go Minshew.
Minus 130.
Okay.
Aiden O'Connell plus 100.
Not a wild favorite, but still a favorite.
Yeah. That one's close. Steelers. Russell Wilson, Justin Fields.
Russ.
Minus 1,000.
Wow.
Set in stone.
I mean, that's stone cold lead pipe lock of the century of the week.
Yeah. Vikings. Sam Darnold, J.J. McCarthy.
Darnold.
Minus 130.
It probably should be more than that. If you go by the reporting out there, apparently Darnold has picked up the offense very well. So,
Are you excited going into the season with Sam Darnold, your starter?
No.
I mean, how do you go into a year like that? It's so tough.
No, I'm not excited.
It's got to be a rough existence to be a fan of a team that you just go in and you have no excitement.
I mean, who's got a worse quarterback situation, Minnesota or Denver?
Minnesota. I don't like McCarthy at all.
Got it. So you give Bo Nix the edge over McCarthy.
I don't even like Bo Nix. I'm taking it from the angle, and I don't like Zach Wilson at all, but I'm going from the angle that maybe Peyton can rejuvenate Wilson.
So
and
for
him
you, it's
getting out of New York
right,
and going to an area of the country that he might be a little bit more, adapt to, that maybe Sean Payton can get more out of him.
So you're looking at more of you believe more in Peyton than you do Kevin O'Connell.
Yeah. I think the fact that he's worked with a guy like Breeze that maybe – and now, look, you might say, well, he had Wilson. Wilson wasn't terrible there. He was way better the second year with Peyton than he was the first year with
100%. Nathaniel Hackett.
Nathaniel Hackett. Yeah. So –
yeah, Nathaniel Hackett goes down to the dumpster bin like Jim Tomsula.
I got betting odds for Manager of the Year. Who's the favorite?
In baseball?
National League Manager of the Year. What other sport has a manager?
Soccer. I've been watching a lot of Welcome to Wrexham.
Is he called is the soccer coach called a manager?
Yes.
Oh, that's news to me.
Yeah,
I've been watching Ted Lasso. I didn't realize he was called the. I thought they called him Wanker.
Is that like the joke about the dog, where no, the dog doesn't know his name? He just calls it damn.
They call him coach.
No, in football in Europe, it's called a manager.
Gotcha. Well, the National League Manager of the Year. Who's the favorite?
Brian Snedeker.
He's 50-1.
Never mind.
Yeah, that was not a good guess. Sorry.
Dave Roberts.
Dave Roberts,
Dodgers manager.
He is. I'm sorry, I don't see. He's not on the list.
Okay.
I think they were a pretty heavy favorite coming into the league, coming into the season.
I'm guessing that's Rob Thompson.
It's not. It's not Rob Thompson. He is actually. Rob Thompson is right there. He's 5-4 plus 125.
All right. So
see, Rob Thompson would be like the difference between him and Roberts. The Dodgers were an overwhelming favorite.
Right.
The Phillies were not, and the Phillies are playing way above the pace of where they had been the last 2 years. So I think Rob Thompson makes sense.
Okay.
But I do think the guy who's in that spot is probably deserving.
And who's that?
It would be the great Pat Murphy. Yes.
You really set me up with that.
Who is Pat Murphy the manager of? Well, for those of you who didn't know, he replaced Craig Counsell
with the
who
Brewers.
left them, and people were not happy when he left, right?
Oh, they were mad.
And he went to the Cubs, who are now in last place. You know, the Cubs were the wild card team about a month ago.
They were.
And now they're in last place in that division.
Oh, Pat Murphy.
Pat Murphy right now is the favorite for National League Manager of the Year.
I would have never guessed Pat Murphy.
I wouldn't know that Pat Murphy was the manager. Full disclosure, when I saw Pat Murphy, I was laughing inside like, who the hell is Pat Murphy?
That was a hard switch from football to baseball for me.
Yeah. Well, Pat Murphy, congratulations. You are the leader for National League Manager here. Minus 120, Rob Thompson, plus 125. Brian Snigger, 50-1.
That's a bad job by the Ted Lasso show to not be a little accurate with the name of what they call the coach in soccer, which is football. It's a manager.
Take it up with them. They did make a reference to Welcome to Wrexham in one of the shows.
Do they really?
Yeah, he says like Rob McElhaney and Ryan Roberts called. They want to make an offer to buy the team. It's like in season 2. All right, Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN. When we come back, it's Nick's Nuggets with Nick Earnshaw at 5 o'clock tonight. Evan Cohen from Unsportsmanlike joins us here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN.
The Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
Phillies made an announcement today. On top of the fact that Schwarber and Harper are back and they're in the lineup, Tyler Phillips will start the game on Saturday against the A's. He replaces Michael Mercado in the rotation. Mercado is getting moved to the bullpen. Nick Earnshaw is here for Nick's Nuggets. Did you know that nugget there, Nick Earnshaw? That was just announced a little while ago. Tyler Phillips, Bishop Eustace alum. You know that Bishop Eustace, 3 pitchers from the same team have all reached the majors from Bishop Eustace.
I didn't know that. Well, now, was Gallen a part of that team? He was a senior when Phillips was a sophomore, I believe, right?
Yes, Gallen was one of them. He graduated in 2013.
Okay, I can't remember who's the other one. It's escaping me.
Devin Smeltzer graduated in 2014. Smeltzer. He's with the Marlins organization. I think he was with the Twins before that. But Gallen with Arizona, Smeltzer with the Marlins organization, and now Tyler Phillips is with the Phillies. You know, he broke a 123-year-old record, Phillies record, by striking out 7. It's the most batters struck out in relief in their Major League Baseball debut. It was broken on Sunday by Tyler Phillips.
Look at that, Mike. And he struck out the side in his first inning.
First 4 batters he struck out. He struck out the side and then the next guy.
Yeah, now he'll get the start on Saturday. I did have it written down actually, Mike. It was one of the nuggets I did have to mention. Like, he's going to be starting in this fifth starter spot. I mean, Turnbull goes down, Walker goes down. It's become a little bit of an issue. I think once everyone kind of gets healthy, it's just an innings eater spot anyway. The fifth starter isn't going to be much to worry about in the postseason, but hey, good for Phillips, man. You know, he pitched 4 strong innings, only gave up the 1 home run against the Braves. He looked great. I mean, coming in relief. I don't know if you noticed, Mike, that his son kind of wasn't paying attention when his dad was pitching. You saw his girlfriend there, or his wife. I'm not too sure what the relationship is, but the mother, she was trying to get his attention. He was going over to the grandmother and just didn't even pay attention. His dad was pitching.
Hey, listen, there's a lot of distraction going on out there at the ballpark. There's food, there's noise, there's crowds. It's all sorts of stuff happening. But it's good to get the young kids out there.
He'll remember it. I'm sure he'll remember it. Looking back, it'll be pretty funny to watch. But I thought that was hysterical watching it on television over the weekend. All right, let's go to nugget number 1, Mike. Schwarber and Harper are back. That's the biggest nugget of them all. They are back. The player of the month for May and June, and Bryce Harper back into the lineup. They only missed 10 games. I think, thought it'd be much longer. It's crazy that they're coming back at the same game at the same time against the Dodgers. Pretty good timing. Mike, is there any concern for you? I mean, maybe a little bit for me. Just, being around Philly sports, things happen. You see Trey Turner. It doesn't seem like he's running at 100%. Is there any concern they may have rushed these guys back too soon?
No. Listen, these guys are professionals, and the Phillies organization is not going to rush these guys back. They have a 7.5 game lead. They've been running, they've been hitting, they've been doing everything to prove that they should be activated and played. Trey Turner, they didn't rush him back. Why would they handle these guys any differently? Trey Turner makes $300 million. You think that they're going to treat him differently than Kyle Schwarber and Bryce Harper? Of course not. When they're ready to come back, they're back. Yeah, I was worried about the Harper one more than the Schwarber one. I thought Schwarber would be a quicker return. I thought for sure Harper would be out until after the All-Star break and maybe even deeper, like a 6 to 8 week thing, the way that kind of looked and sounded and the way that he sounded. But if the Phillies activated these guys and are playing them right away, it's because they're ready to go. They did it with Trey Turner, and he had that setback. They pulled him back. I think if they had any doubts about this, they would have handled it the same way they did with Trey Turner.
Yeah, I think the Harper one was concerning, especially since the hamstring. You saw it happen to Turner. You saw it happen to Brandon Marsh. They missed time. It was more on the Marsh timeline than the Turner timeline with the Harper injury. It was quicker. It was only 10 games. Obviously, Schwarber's back, too, with the groin injury. But, yeah, the Harper one was a little concerning because after that game, Mike, he was talking about how he never felt anything like that before. So that was interesting when that whole situation evolved after the game. I think he was the last out of the game when he got hurt. So there was. I don't think I'm concerned that they rushed them back. I just hopefully it doesn't linger because it feels like the Turner thing's starting to linger a little bit. You see him kind of pull up when he runs on occasion. I hope it's not the same case for Harper, but I think they'll be just fine. And Mike, I don't know if you knew this, but this is only Bryce Harper's second All-Star game as a Philly. I don't know if you knew that. Isn't that crazy to you? He's been at the team for 6 years, only his second All-Star game. He's had injuries in the past. This is only his second one as a Philadelphia Philly. I think that's crazy. He's been there a ton.
Yeah, saying that is kind of weird. I mean, I know you had, there was a COVID year in there, so who knows? I don't remember what happened with the All-Star game that year. He was hurt the one year. He missed the whole first half of the season. So that's 2 of the 6 that he didn't make. Was there another short COVID situation in there somewhere?
No, I mean, he had the injury in 23. So, last year he came off the Tommy John. He was the quickest to come back. Still played 126 games. 19 didn't make it. He was not an All-Star that year. 20 was the COVID year. 21 played 141 games. Yeah, he just did. Yeah, this is only his second time getting there. How about that? And as a first baseman, too, this time.
This time, yeah. Now, as an outfielder before, a lot more competition. Obviously, Ronald Acuna plays right field. He's been out there. But it's a little surprising to hear that he hadn't made it before. But you just said it. He made it as a first baseman. There's a lot of competition at first base here. Freddie Freeman, obviously, is a perennial guy there. But, hey, Bryce Harper has turned himself into a really good first baseman. Who would have saw that coming when they signed him a couple of years ago?
No, you never would have saw that coming. But I thought it's fascinating. Looks like he's going to play for tonight. They're going to play tonight. He's in the lineup with Schwarber. You get your leadoff hitter back. Harper looking like he's probably going to play in the All-Star game. Now I want to move to nugget number 2, Mike, and kind of stay on the All-Star realm here. Alec Boehm, he's in the home run derby. Are you worried? Now, we've had this discussion on the baseball show I do, The Shift. Mike, we've talked about kind of the home run derby rules and guys dropping out as well. Like Aaron Judge doesn't want to do it. The top guys don't want to do it. Ellie De La Cruz decline. Juan Soto decline. Is there any worry about Boehm messing up his swing? Because that's always kind of the cliche thing that they come up with. Oh, they're hot right now. They don't want to mess up their swing. With Boehm being in the derby, is that a concern for you? Because it's not for me. I think it's overrated and it's a ridiculous take in my estimation. I'm just interested because Boehm's a doubles guy. He's not really a home run guy. It's going to be fascinating to see him in the derby.
Yeah, I don't have a huge concern about that. I know people have talked about in the past, Bobby Abreu was not a big home run hitter, and he was in the Derby, and right. I think a lot of people remember he actually won the Derby. It was in Detroit, I think, yep. And he just went bananas, and, then the second half of the year he wasn't as good. Look, I mean, these guys are professionals. Like, the one thing about the Derby, okay, they don't even have the whole field announced yet, right?
Right. No, it's not done yet.
It's not done yet. There's only like 6 guys of the 8. They have to do a better job with this, right? To me, these are where these leagues need to say, hey, listen, if you want to play in our league, these are the stipulations. We need the best in the Derby. The teams, the top 4 home run hitters in the American League and the National League, you guys will compete in the home run derby. Period, point blank. Not, hey, do you want to be in it? Nah. Same thing with the slam dunk competition and stuff in the NBA. Yeah. Now, I don't know what you do about the slam dunk competition, but, hey, who are the top 3-point shooters? We're going to take the top 5 percentages in the league, and you guys are going to compete. Home run derby. Top 4 in the American League against the top 4 in the National League. Alec Boehm doesn't need to be in the home run derby. Nobody thinks that Alec Boehm is a home run hitter. If anything, that's the one complaint about Alec Boehm is he doesn't hit for enough power for a third baseman, and yet you put him in the home run derby. They need to do a better job. This goes back to what we talked about yesterday with Paul Skeens. Get the best players that give your game the best chance to compete and get more popularity.
Yeah, I'm in total agreement. The best guys, the top home run, like how do you not have Aaron Judge, who could hit another 60 home runs this year in the home run derby? He's declining it. Ellie De La Cruz, he's declining it. Like it's kind of crazy to me. So in the home run derby right now, it's Gunnar Henderson from the Orioles. It is Pete Alonso from the Mets. He's been in there a ton of times. Alec Boehm from the Phillies. Bobby Witt from the Royals, and Marcell Ozuna from the Braves, Jose Ramirez from the Guardians. Those who are in the home run derby as of right now. I feel like there should be some bigger names in there. The Sotos of the world, the Judges of the world. De La Cruz can hit it 450 feet. Like, that's what people want to see. And I think the rules have gotten out of hand. Last year was ridiculous. They kind of changed it this time. There's now a pitch count or a timer, whichever kind of comes first is kind of the rules that they're setting. Just go back to the 10 outs. The 10 outs were so much more fun. And they also should bring back Chris Berman. Chris Berman was the best. I would need him to come out of retirement going back. I mean, that was fantastic, Mike. Like, he was great. I got so excited. I got goosebumps when he would do that during the home run derby. I feel like it's not the same.
It's not the same. And by the way, so I have called a home run derby before.
Really?
It is like the most monotonous thing like ever. You're right. Bring somebody who had some fun doing it and loved being a part of it. I mean, the derby, I can't even tell you, Nick, the last time I even watched the derby. Just no interest. You tell me there's rule changes and all that. I don't even know what the rules were. What they are, nothing. I just, it's jumped the shark.
See, we're the crazy people on the shift that we will dive into the rule changes of the home run derby. Like we dove into it on our last episode or 2 episodes ago on the rule changes. Like there's timers now. It's just getting ridiculous. I don't know why you can't just simplify it. I like the tournament style stuff. Like that's great. But I think you need to go back to simplifying it. 10 outs, however many home runs you can hit, farthest, do the golden ball or whatever at the end. That was fantastic. They need to go back to the old rules. Stop messing with stuff. It's like they're messing with the pitch clock 1 year after. They changed the rules last year. They continue to mess with the rules again this year. Just get the stars in it. Bring back the 10 outs and just have fun. Get a broadcaster in there that's going to show some oomph and show some excitement, Mike, because the Home Run Derby should be an exciting thing. Remember, it's going to be here in Philadelphia in just a couple of years in 26.
Yeah, by the way, by the time it gets there, the rules will probably change 2 more times.
Yeah, maybe it'll be back to 10 outs. Hopefully it'll be back to 10 outs. I'm going to be there no matter what. I will be in attendance for that Home Run Derby. There's no way I'm missing that. No way. Nice. All-Star game hasn't been here since, 96?
Hey, listen.
The last time it was in Philly?
I don't know that you're going to get 7 All-Stars, Phillies All-Stars in that game, but if they can match that would be an awesome. Can you imagine 7 Phillies All-Stars at the All-Star game in Philadelphia?
That would be amazing. If they could get at least 5 or 6, it'd be fantastic. Like that, I think, this core in 2026, they'll still be around. I think they'll still be in a playoff hunt in 2026, barring anything crazy or catastrophic.
2026, 2 years from now. I mean, you're still going to get Harper. You're still going to get Turner. Now, you might not have Schwarber. You're probably not going to have Castellanos, which I don't think people are going to be crying about. Real Muto. Where's he going to be contractually? Where's he at in that time frame? So, I mean, you're going to be, the pitchers should all be here. It's going to, that 2026, 2020, right around there is where there's going to be that changeover of, how many more years does Schwarber has? 2 years left, I think.
2 years, yeah.
And so does Castellanos.
So that's kind of like the final year, right? I guess of everyone's deal of this core for the most part. You might see if they keep these guys over the next couple of deadlines. Justin Crawford, Aiden Miller.
Well, it's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting to see what do they do with Schwarber when that contract's up. He's going to be, I don't know, what's Kyle Schwarber's age right now. So 2 years from now, at the end of 2 years from now, Schwarber's 31. So he'll be 33 or 34, I guess, at the end of that deal. Do you give him another deal at 34 years old? Like, Schwarber's the kind of guy, I think, at this point, and Real Muto's a free agent after 2025. Schwarber, he's the kind of guy, like, do you give him one more big deal, like a 3-year type of deal, like 34, 35, 36, like something like that? He's the kind of guy that, now that he's here in Philly, you probably don't see him go play anywhere else. I mean, you probably keep him here for good. But what if they don't win a World Series between now and then? Do you keep bringing them back as they keep getting older? They're going to go down that road here pretty soon. That's why you got to get it done this year.
It's going to be fascinating over the next couple of years to see where the contracts land, because all these guys will be right around the same age, 33, 34. It's kind of where they'll be in 2 years when the All-Star game is in Philadelphia. Going to be cool stuff. I'm sure one of those guys will be in the Home Run Derby that year when it is in Philly. Bohm is in it this year. So cool stuff. All right. Nugget number 3. Mike, I see you're a Summer League sicko like me and some of us out there. I saw you rewatch. You didn't watch it live. You went back and watched the game from last night. The 76ers got their Summer League started, and there were some interesting little nuggets out of it. Ricky Council had 19 points in one quarter. He had 29 points overall. He's going to be a contributing factor for the 76ers. And we're all hyped up on Paul George, Caleb Martin, Andre Drummond, all the guys coming back, signing with the 76ers this offseason. But Ricky Council is going to be a guy that's going to be in this rotation at least during the regular season. He gave you some energy last year. He went off yesterday in the Summer League with about 3 fans in the stands, which was pretty funny. But you also got to see Jared McCain and Adem Bona for the first time. The first and second round picks the Sixers took this year. McCain was 0 for 6 from 3, which was kind of crazy, but he also had 15 points and was able to get to the rim, and he was flying around. It reminded me a little bit of Maxey. When
I said earlier. All right, I'll ask you.
All right.
Maxey, his rookie year, averaged 15 minutes a game. He averaged 8 points. I said, can Jared McCain be akin to what Maxey was as a rookie? 15 minutes a game, a little spark off the bench, about 7-8 points, something like that. Is that too much to hope for?
I don't think it's too much to hope for. I mean, the guy shot 40% from 3 in college. So, I mean, if you're asking him to take the outside shot, if he's needs to get to the basket, he can, because he's so quick. He's smaller. Obviously, that's a little bit of a concern, but he can get to the basket because he has that speed and that quick burst. So, yeah, I don't think it's asking that much if he plays 15 minutes a game, and he's got the work ethic. I mean, that's all you heard. Guys like Jay Billis, covering the draft, talking about this guy after the Sixers took him. Like, he's got the work ethic. He's got the personality to put in the work. I don't think that's a stretch at all to ask for 15 minutes, put up 6, 7, 8, even 9 points off of the bench, hit a 3 coming off the bench, give the Sixers some energy. Yeah, I don't think that's asking a lot out of Jared McCain. I think he should get valuable minutes this season for sure.
No, listen, I'm not saying 15 to 17 minutes, a little energy off the bench. That's all. And I said, listen, 0 for 6 from 3. That doesn't worry me. I'm not worried about that. What I saw this morning, because I watched the game this morning, was on the floor, diving for loose balls, that kind of stuff. Yeah, he had quick first step, got to the basket. It's Summer League. That thing I don't care about. It's the little intangibles that you need from a guy like him this year, and I like what I saw from him there.
Yeah, I'm excited about Jared McCain. I remember he's taken before Max. Max was the 21st pick. McCain was taken in the middle. Was it 16th? So I'm excited for McCain. I mean, this is a guy who's taken it's just outside the lottery, right? 15, right? So he was taken just outside 16. The lottery. Yeah, so he was taking 16, but the lottery's 15, right? The first 15 picks. So I'm excited about Jared McCain. So I think he's a guy that you might even be underselling him at like 15 minutes. He might be able to average more than that if he can give you that burst, like you mentioned, diving for loose balls, giving you the energy that you need. Ricky Council, another big energy guy. He could get rebounds. He's tough down in the paint. So those are two guys I'm looking at. And then Adem Bona, he was knocking. McCain was throwing up lobs to him yesterday. Adem Bona, a 6'8" center, I guess you could consider him, and that's what he played in college. But he's athletic and he's strong, and that's something the Sixers need out of another guy that maybe they could get some minutes during the regular season.
Yeah, Bona, I liked. He has the intuition. I described it as he has the knack. He has the knack of being in the right place at the right time. It tells me he's a good rebounder.
Yeah, that's going to be fun to watch. He's athletic and get boards, what the Sixers desperately need. It was trouble in the playoffs, trouble in paradise for the 76ers last year. So Adem Bona, you have Drummond now as the current backup center. Bona give you a little bit of depth. I liked what I saw. They're back again tonight. Are you going to be another sicko, Mike, and watch Summer League again?
I watch all this. Now, I might not get it tonight. I might have to do them again tomorrow morning.
Yeah.
I'll probably go Phillies tonight.
All right, yeah. I think you have to.
Not probably. Well, here's the conundrum I have.
Oh, let's hear it.
I got 7-day free trial Apple Plus. Okay.
Yeah. You were wait, hold up. You were texting me about how to figure this out over the weekend because you're not an Apple guy. You're an Android guy. I was gonna text back some directions for you. Then I remembered you don't have an iPhone.
I don't, but everybody else in my house does. I'm the only one that doesn't. And we figured out to do it. We got the game Friday night.
Yes.
We got the 7-day free trial.
Yes.
Well, now we started watching Ted Lasso. We only have 7 days to get it all in. So if I use a night tonight to watch the Phils, that means I'm missing nights where I can get some episodes in.
Yeah. Yeah, you got the Phils tonight.
Obviously, I go Phils tonight.
Yeah, you have to go Phils, especially now. I mean, it's Dodgers series, too. They're playing the Dodgers. Schwarber's back. Harper's back. Now, I mean, the game's finished kind of early. Are you knocked by like 10 o'clock, Mike? 9:30, 10? Are you out, or are you going to watch the Lasso?
No, we'll go Lasso. Probably, yeah, we're about 11:30.
Okay, so you'll get an episode or two in, for sure.
Oh, yeah. I mean, I'm usually my girlfriend's like a 5:30 in the morning riser, so and then by proxy that means I'm like a 5:30 in the morning riser. Like so I might not be up and about at 5:30, but I definitely hear the alarm, and I'm kind of like,
Yeah, you're in and out. I mean, you hear the alarm, you're like trying to go back, but you're not really going to go back.
Yeah, there's no going back.
So it's like, all right, let me turn on the Summer League. Let's see what Jared McCain did. Drop 15. So maybe he does that again tonight.
Well, that's what happened. This morning I was up, and so I'm sitting there, and I have the game recorded. So I said, all right, I'll go watch the Summer League game from last night.
Yeah, it was good. I was watching it live. I was doing some work when I got home, and then I had that on in the background. Was seeing Jared McCain, Bona do some good stuff, Ricky Council as well. So, I'll probably be tuned into that. I might like check it on my phone here and there, but I'm locked into the Phillies tonight. I think Phillies all night against the Dodgers. You have to be locked in. All right, Mike. Nugget number 3. That's it for me. 3-piece for you on a Tuesday afternoon.
All right. By the way, are you team Embiid playing in the Olympics, or do you not want him to play?
I'm for him playing in the Olympics. Yeah, I'm team Embiid in the Olympics. I think he should be there, and he should be playing for Team USA. People have given him crap for playing for Team USA. He could play for other teams. He's a U.S. citizen. He's been here for a long time. He's got family here. Team USA all in on Embiid playing. It makes me a little nervous, but he's got to play.
Hey, listen, the injury thing, you can't legislate injuries. You don't know when they're going to occur. But what I like about Embiid is a guy like Steve Kerr coaching him, using him a little differently from what reports are saying, and he's around all these guys who have won championships. Maybe it'll rub off on him. Maybe he learned something. Maybe he takes something. Maybe they bust his stones enough to say, yo, why can't you get that team to the championship? And he takes it personal. I'll take it. Give me that opportunity because I have to get Embiid. The best level of Embiid that I can get is getting him around this group of guys.
Light a fire under him. Hopefully those superstars do it. I mean, you got Paul George here now. There's not a ton of excuses, Joe.
You're right. All right, Nick Earnsall's Nuggets, and they're brought to you by Bet365. Whatever the sport, whatever the moment, it's never ordinary at Bet365. Thanks, Nick.
All right, Mike. See you later.
All right, Nick's Nuggets are back tomorrow here on the Sports Bash. Welcome back, Schwarber. Welcome back, Bryce Harper. Both of them are back in the lineup tonight. David Dahl has been designated for assignment. The David Dahl era ends. And I saw one of his home runs. I was there live in person in London. I saw a David Dahl home run in London in a Phillies uniform. Pretty crazy. He had 2 homers in his life with the Phillies, and I saw one of them in London. He's gone. He got designated for assignment. And by the way, Cody Clements has been optioned to AAA Lehigh. Evan Cohen from Unsportsmanlike. What does he think about the Sixers now with Paul George and company? That's next.
This is the Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. Now live from inside the Ocean Casino Resort Studio, here's Mike Gill.
Joe Shane should have stood in there and Shane Bowen had said, hey, Shane, this is what we're playing with it.
All right, Sports Bash Live, 97.3 ESPN, the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app. The heat is on. Joel Embiid and the Sixers, the heat is on. The Phillies, by the way, the heat is on them tonight. They got their guys back. Bryce Harper's back. Kyle Schwarber's back. They're in the lineup. Schwarber hitting leadoff. Harper in the 3-hole. They're playing the Dodgers. It's Wheeler on the mound at Citizens Bank Park. Kind of has a playoff lineup feel to it, other than Real Muto being out. They pretty much have their opening day, quote-unquote, type of roster back there. Everybody's back for the Phils. And, of course, we'll be all over that here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN as you welcome back Harper and Schwarber. We'll dive more into that throughout the hour here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. A lot of conversation. You know, the Olympics are getting ready to start. The men's basketball team. You know, the men's basketball team is like a heavy favorite. But Evan Cohen this morning on Unsportsmanlike here on 97.3 ESPN had this to say about the Sixers.
If they're able to win a championship, if they're able to get to the finals, I believe it's because of the fact that Tyrese Maxey will become their best player in the face of their franchise.
Ooh,
not Embiid
spicy.
And not Paul George. I think he has to be the best player. If they win a championship this year, which I do not think they will, but if they do, I would bet that Tyrese Maxey would be Finals MVP.
All right, that was Evan Cohen this morning on Unsportsmanlike here on 97.3 ESPN. It's not Embiid. It's not Paul George. It's Tyrese Maxey. Evan Cohen, you believe he has to be the guy that leads them to a title. Is Tyrese Maxey. I always say the team that wins the championship has the best player on the best team. Is Tyrese Maxey a best player on the best team?
Not yet, but I don't know that the other two guys can be as well. As crazy as that sounds, because Mike, you're not talking about, and pardon me, about a wash-off sweat as I was doing my big run just now. So now I'm drenched. Anyway, so I think that Maxey can actually be that at some point. It would be rare. You don't normally see a point guard as that in the NBA today, right? It's more of the 3-and-D type wings that we just saw with Jason Tatum, Jaylen Brown, obviously Giannis, who's not really 3-and-D, but he plays more of the wing position. It's not usually the point guard outside of Steph Curry. My point in that comment this morning was about the fact that, to no fault of his own, I believe Joel Embiid has only understood what losing looks like and feels like. He has never really truly overachieved. His teams have never truly overachieved in his time in the NBA. And I think that is in large part because of the process, right? It's not his fault. And I get it. It's chicken and egg. Well, you don't get Embiid if you don't go through the process. I understand all of that. And Paul George, while they had to make that move, you're talking about a guy that is pretty clear about the fact that Philly was his third option and that he did not necessarily want to be there. And it's not like he has come from being in the NBA Finals. I still think there's a part of this team that is mired by the process. And I think Embiid is the living, breathing process of the process in many ways, right? And I don't know that that's necessarily a good thing.
Do you look at Embiid? I know he's had the injuries, you said, by no fault of his own. Can Embiid be the best player on the best team? Is he that kind of guy?
I don't think if he's wearing a Philadelphia jersey, the answer is yes. And let me be clear on this. I don't think it's a Philly thing as much as they're pairing together, right? If you just switched Embiid and Jokic right now, there's a good chance this team wins the championship this year.
What does adding Paul George do to the Maxey Embiid? I mean, last year they had Tobias Harris as the third guy. He scored 0 points in that loss against the Knicks. Just flipping, and we'll get to some of the other moves that Daryl Morey made, because there's always questions about how good Morey is. Even here locally, people are like, what has he done? Just getting Paul George, what does that do about the perception of the Sixers entering this season?
I think it's a great question. I think it basically allows the last 2 years to go unscathed. In other words, you made the move for Harden, which at the time I think people were excited about because it meant getting rid of Simmons.
They were.
Right. And so that was addition by subtraction. Then you're excited about Harden. Then out of nowhere, he and Morey don't like each other anymore. Really, Harden doesn't like Morey. And Morey just cleared the decks. It's not like he got some superstar in return for James Harden. He got cap space, right? So if they don't get Paul George this offseason and they get, let's just call it KCP, Kentavious Caldwell-Pope, who left Denver to go to Orlando, and DeMar DeRozan, just for argument's sake. That arguably may have helped as much as getting Paul George, but it would not have been the intended goal of what last year was about. I feel like last year now, this past season, Mike, I feel like doesn't matter because it paid off. You got Paul George.
No, that there's a lot of people, Evan, the whole, Paul George being the age that he is, I think has, kind of clouded the deck here. Like, if you had Paul George at 30, I think people would be more excited. I think some people think it's a really good move. And then it's like, well, what else was out there type of move? You got to put yourself in that mode. So you look at Morey. I don't know what your thoughts of him were. Houston Morey, what he's done in Philly Morey. But has he changed any perception of him in what he did? A lot of people think, look, he had this thing in his mind a year ago with the Harden. The whole Harden thing, he lied to me. Oh, well, people aren't going to want to play for him. That didn't turn out to be true. So has the perception of Morey changed?
I don't think so. And it's interesting because I have been fortunate enough to be on ESPN radio for 11 months, 10 months now, whatever it is. And you and I hit it off early. And early on, when I would come on the show and I would name drop you on our show, which I did the other day, by the way, it was about Morey. We would literally be talking about the Eagles or something else, and we would literally just take a turn and we would get to Morey. Because I'm not suggesting he's not good at his job. What I am, I guess, asking is why is he revered the way he is when he has never run a team that went to the NBA Finals? Not once.
Yeah.
Okay? And everybody says, well, if Chris Paul's hamstring is not banged up, well, then who knows what happens with the team in Houston. I know what happens. They may beat the Warriors. They may not. But they definitely have to face LeBron James in the NBA Finals, which does not mean they win a championship. He comes to Philly. The amount of drama that follows this guy is unbelievable. Everywhere he goes, it's like just something like, wait, what? What happened? And so I think he makes sense in being a general manager to retool and replenish a team. Like, he makes trades, he sees things that we don't see. I'm not in any way suggesting that you and I could do the job better than him, obviously. What I am suggesting is that let's not crown him as the best executive in the sport when we've seen 6 different title winners over the last 6 years, and he's never been to a final.
Yeah, listen, he was the adversary of the Warriors teams, but he was never able to get the piece to get them over the top and beat those Warriors team, and that was an all-time great team. You're right. One of the discussions we had, Evan Cohen on Sportsmanlike, weekday mornings at 6 on 97.3 ESPN, we talked about, when Hinkie left and Colangelo took over. What if Morey took over at that point? He would have
continued what you just said is brilliant. That is when he should have run this team.
Yes.
If you actually think, now how would we know that and figure that out? Because one of the things that you see in sports is the person that is blowing up the team usually doesn't get a chance to rebuild the team. Very few guys do, right? So my argument would be, if you are going to be an organization that allows someone to blow up a team, I think you have to decide in advance if you're going to allow them to rebuild the team.
The Hinkie thing was wild, though. I mean, a lot of speculation that the NBA stepped in, and then they kind of placed the Colangelos in and yada, yada. But when Colangelo came in, he essentially had a treasure chest of picks and cap space. And if Morey would have had the picks in the cap space, I could tell you what they wouldn't have done. Trade it for Markelle Fultz and gave the Celtics an extra first-round pick to do so. That would have never have happened because these guys just don't operate that way. So who knows where this team would be different. But they did add some other pieces. We talked about the headliners. They have Maxey. They have George. They have Embiid. But they went out and got Caleb Martin, Eric Gordon, Andre Drummond. It's something that the Sixers really haven't had, is those role guys, those secondary guys. They rely so much on Embiid and Harden, or Embiid and Simmons, and Embiid and Butler. But those other guys who do the dirty work, they really haven't had high level of those guys. What do you think about the moves there? And I know that you posted about the Caleb Martin move. A lot of people here think that was a really good piece to add to this mix.
Yeah, he is. But you got to understand what he actually is. Like, not you, I'm saying people out there have to understand that. So let's go through this for a second. So when we say the Philadelphia 76ers finally have role players, here is where I will disagree with that. I think they finally have a big 3 that seems to fit and is legitimate, okay? And because if you look at the role players historic, I literally, as we're talking, I'm pulling up last year's team. Role players at different points during the course of the season. Kelly Oubre, who's back. Buddy Hield, who the Warriors sought after. DeAnthony Melton, who the Warriors gave $12 million to.
He was hurt there last year.
Well, Cameron Payne,
yep.
He was hurt, right? Cameron Payne was good at times. Kyle Lowry came in, was actually good. Paul Reed, I know Philly fans love, he was just claimed by the Pistons. Marcus Morris had a good career. Patrick Beverley's had a good career. Nick Batum was unbelievable for them late in the season. Robert Covington has been on their team multiple times and has been good when healthy. Mo Bamba, all right, maybe that one didn't work out. But PJ Tucker they had for a minute. Like, they've had actually really good role players. Like, I don't see that this group of role players is so much different than the years past. I think that's where I would differ with Philly fans. What I see is their role is different within the role players. They don't have to do as much.
Yeah, well, because of the failure of the Harris thing was just an anchor on them for 5 years where he took up so much and you relied on him and he gave you – the role players sometimes would do their job and he would do that, give you a nothing burger. So
right. I guess what I'm saying is – and now I'm looking at 2 years ago, right? I'm looking at guys like so Shake Milton was good for them at times. George Niang was very good for them. They had Jalen McDaniels for a minute, Montrezl Harrell, and Daniel House, who Morey's had multiple stops in Houston and Philly. So I think what you just said is dead on, Mike, is that if you had the same role players you had the last 2 years, but with this big three,
right,
I think we would say, oh my God, look how good the role players are.
Well, that's been the conversation, is that just swapping George for Harris, how much better does that make you?
Yes,
because
that
Harris
is absolutely correct.
Right. Harris just was such a problem. Now, some people question Paul George in big games. Look, Paul George took a pretty mediocre Indiana team to the Eastern Conference Finals, not once but twice.
I don't look at that team as mediocre. I think we look back at that team as mediocre. I was living in South Florida at the time. I was covering the Heat, those Heat teams, or back and forth between South Florida and New York. Those Pacers teams were really good. It's just that we look back now and think like Roy Hibbert, David West, and George Hill took a team to the NBA's Eastern Conference Finals. Right, but at the time, that's what the Heat had really struggled with Roy Hibbert, oddly enough. But I think you have simplified this in such an awesome way. By saying what you just said is, let's be honest, what the Philadelphia 76ers did this offseason was take Tobias Harris out and put Paul George in. Don't overstate what these role players are going to do. Caleb Martin, very good player. Not a power forward, can play power forward, can guard power forwards at times. He is not a power forward by any stretch of the imagination, but he will absolutely help. And he's a very good basketball player. Not a star.
Are there power forwards like Karl Malone is no longer like what would Karl Malone be in today's game? This is one of the greatest scorers of all time. What is his role in today's game?
Arrested.
That's a really outside the box, off the court one there. Going back,
I should not have said that. There's allegations around Karl Malone that he is lucky he did not play.
Absolutely, that is 100% accurate. Yes, he would probably. But the type of player, I would say,
he'd be a center. He'd be a small ball five, or you'd have to have. No, he was a great player in that. I think he would have developed a three.
That's the thing about all those guys from back then. Would they have been good enough to develop the 3-point shot? Like, he's not a stretch four.
No. But small ball five, but I think he would have stretched the floor a little bit. So yes, you're right in the sense of old school power forward. No, but go look at the pictures of Jason Tatum standing next to Kevin Durant and Bam Adebayo. He's taller than Bam. Bam's 6'9". Tatum's 6'10". Caleb is 6'5".
There was an article I was reading today that suggests that this dream team, quote unquote, is better than the original dream team.
Yeah, no chance.
All right. Well,
I mean, one had Michael Jordan in his prime. That's it. I know that's a stupid way of ending an argument, but for me, at my age, your age, when we grew up in that kind of era around Michael, that's it. That's over and done with. But I just want to get back to one thing here. Having the upgrade, because you've made tremendous points that have me thinking here. But having the upgrade of Harris to George does not mean Embiid's going to be healthy in the playoffs, and does not mean they're going to do what I suggest.
Or George, by the way.
Or George is going to be healthy. And it does not mean they're going to basically give the team to Maxey and say, these two guys who are going to both be in the Hall of Fame, they're here to help you, not the other way.
Well, it'll be interesting because, one of the reasons why Boston was so tough is that one night it's Brown, one night it's Tatum, one night it's Holiday. I mean, they had different guys. You don't have to rely on the same guy every night, and their depth was part of the reason. They had 5 really, really good players. I mean, heck, they won the thing without Porzingis, for God's sakes.
Well, that is the way in which you have to win today under this new second apron NBA ruling, which I don't like what's going on with that, but because I don't think it allows for dynasties, which I think is a bad thing. But basically what you need 5 players. No, let's call it 6. You need 6 players that you can look at and say they're at least good on both offense and defense. No, the specialty guy, the guy that comes in to just play defense or just shoot threes will be exposed in the new NBA. You just simply need 5 to 6 guys that are low end, at least good on both offense and defense, and not one or the other. So if you look at Philadelphia, Embiid, obviously, Maxey, he's not a great defensive player, but good enough. Paul George, obviously. I think Caleb can fit that as your 6th guy. I don't think he's your top 5 necessarily. Eric Gordon, 7th guy, 8th guy. I mean, do they have enough around those 3 to theoretically beat the Celtics? See, that's where I actually think somebody that I have a weird feeling that this guy is going to end up being good. I think Jared McCain's going to be good.
We talked about this. All right, so here's a question for you, Evan Cohen. If Jared McCain is akin to what Maxey was as a rookie, is that over expectations? He played 15 minutes a game. He scored 8 points. He was a little spark plug off the bench. But if I said Jared McCain plays 15 minutes, scores 8 points as a rookie, are you saying that's
step in the right direction? Step in the right. There's something about him. I almost feel like he's just punking everybody. It's like, oh, you just think because he wears nail polish. Who cares? He dances in TikTok videos. Who cares?
Yeah.
He's already the best player on the scene. He looks great in the summer.
He was all over the floor. He was diving for loose balls in a summer league game in Utah. I said earlier, I signed that guy up for me for
exactly right.
You have a problem with Embiid playing in the Olympics?
Yes, I do.
Ooh, all right. I'm against you on this one.
Well, are you saying? I don't mean from a country perspective. I mean from an injury perspective.
I get it. No, that's the thing. Everybody just doesn't want him to play because of that. But to me, all this conversation we're having is about Embiid. Embiid needs to be around that team of guys so they can bust his stones. You guys talked about it this morning. He's the only MVP not to get to the conference finals. Guess what? Go around a bunch of guys who have won championships and have them bust your stones about not being there and then come back. I get the injury part of it.
That's a good counter.
Right, I get the injury part of it, but guess what? I'm taking my best 2 or 3 shots with him and Paul George, and to get him at his best, he needs to be around those guys.
All right, I'm back in. Yeah, he should be around them.
Welcome to my side.
Well, how about this? Can he play 3 minutes total a game and just be around them?
Yeah, just practice with them. I don't care if you play.
Yeah, because what you said makes sense. I don't think he should play too much. If God forbid he gets hurt or he breaks down at the end of the regular season, you are going to take call after call after call on 97.3 about, well, of course he got hurt. Look at the extra wear and tear on his body from the Olympics.
There's 100%.
Right, but that's what's going to happen.
100%. Paul George, you hinted at it earlier. The Sixers seemingly were not his first choice. He wanted to go to L.A.
He said as much.
He said as much. He was very candid on the podcast. He wanted to go to L.A. They lowballed him. He liked the idea of playing in Golden State, and I get why. Geographically, he said, I wouldn't have to move. This seemed to be his third choice. So do you look at buyer's remorse about that? Do you look at that and say, he chose us not because he wanted to be here?
That is a part that really scares me. But I'm going to flip it. Does it scare you as somebody who's lived this forever? That somebody that speaks to Philly fans every single day, that if he goes 2 of 15 one night just because he's off, in every other city it's whatever. In your city, in and around Philly and Atlantic City, it's get this guy off the team.
See, and I was watching highlights and stuff. Although I can't watch highlights because Wimbledon's on all day, every day. I got to get Wimbledon off my channels. It's too much. I don't need it on both channels, all right? But that said, I said, as soon as I see the highlights of him and they're showing him shoot a 3 and do this and then that, and as soon as they see he's a total upgrade over Harris, they're going to love the guy, and then in turn he's going to love it here, like everybody else does. The minute the fans connect with the new guy, look at Bryce Harper. I mean,
well, that's exactly where I was going to go, because I see Bryce Harper's name scrolling on the screen here underneath the Sports Bash.
Back tonight, baby. He's back tonight.
So, if I were Philadelphia and I were Daryl Morey, who I know doesn't care about the human emotions and that's not his thing and all that kind of stuff, I would call over to the Phillies organization, Dave Dombrowski, right? Still running it,
yep.
Correct?
Mm-hmm.
And I would say, I need to connect Paul George with Bryce Harper. I need them to get together. I need them to go to lunch, dinner, whatever it is. I need to make this intro because Bryce Harper entered the city and won everybody over immediately.
Yeah. Well, they got Dr. J. Dr. J was in his crib, man. That's what he said on the podcast, P. That was what he said on the pod. He said, Dr. J was in my crib.
But I think Dr. J's an icon.
Mike Trout. They got Mike Trout to call him.
All of those things are great.
Little Dicky, by the way.
Now, I love Dave Bird. That's the best. Dave is the best show on television. Anyway, I just think Harper's different.
No doubt.
Harper is in the moment now. He had this perception about him that is so not true coming into Philly. Pretty boy couldn't be further from the truth, as you know. He's as hard-nosed, hard-working as could be, dive head first kind of guy. Paul George needs to get with Bryce Harper and figure out, how do I enter into Philadelphia and be what you are in this town?
All right. I was in the car this morning. I have never heard of anybody eating an orange in the shower.
Oh, my God. What was that?
I don't know. I've never heard that before.
Michelle Smallman, for those who don't know what Mike is talking about, on our show this morning said it's a common thing that people eat oranges in the shower.
My producer's looking at me like, what are you guys talking about? So he, too, has not heard of it. Yeah, I heard it. I was in the car.
So there's two reasons, she said. Both seemingly make sense. Neither are something that I would care about or do. The first reason, she said, is because your hands get all gross from eating an orange, that if you do it in the shower, you're washing it off immediately. Okay, like technically true, makes no sense. Second thing is the citrus smell of an orange in the shower.
Permeates,
I don't know. There are these sprays that I use that you could use, like the Glade spray or whatever it is, that I'd rather use than eat an orange. Because then I was just like, okay, so if Pat, our producer from Philly, Pat Costello, was just going to eat wings in the shower tonight.
Right.
Single guy living in Connecticut, like, are you okay with that? It's like, no, that's gross. Well, I'm like, well, what's the difference? If he likes the wing smell, which who doesn't like good smell of buffalo wings, and it's, you know, it's all over your hands, so you can wash it off immediately. Why can't you eat wings in the shower?
Exactly. It totally made no sense. I'm listening to this conversation. I'm like, who eats an orange in the shower? By the way, the Seinfeld episode is when Kramer installed the garbage disposal in the shower, and everybody had the germs. And he's like, I made this radish in the shower. And the people with the germs all like couldn't handle it, and they were spitting it all out. David Putty.
Can you believe I have an entire show that I'm a part of that no one but me has watched Seinfeld?
I can't believe how long ago it was, but yes, the fact that, you know, and like to not, now see, this is where like you could go back and watch it and still think but you have to have that type of humor.
Yeah. I mean, like I don't know how somebody could watch a Junior Mint episode and not think it's funny.
Exactly. But the problem is, like, if you're not in the era that we grew up in, the shows that don't have cell phones, they always say that wouldn't have happened if there was a cell phone.
Right.
So they can't suspend disbelief for long enough.
I don't like the shows that come out today that aren't modern, cell phone, laptop, all that kind of stuff. I'm all in on that. I'm very into, I don't want to give it away if you haven't seen it or anybody else out there, but Presumed Innocent on Apple Plus, have you been watching this?
The whole Apple Plus thing, I just got it. I'm on a 7-day trial. I'm trying to watch Ted Lasso in the 7 days.
Okay, let's go through this. So I'd watch Ted Lasso in the 7 days. I'd watch The Morning Show, a great show. Seasons 1 and 3 I think are the best, but Morning Show I'd watch. But this show, Presumed Innocent, Jake Gyllenhaal, phenomenal. Murder, mystery, a legal kind of show. I guarantee you, your chat right now will blow up of people who are watching this and absolutely love it.
So, in other words, I'm extending my 7-day free trial to I'm now getting Apple TV Plus.
I don't. Yeah, why? I'm not trying to do a live read for Apple Plus, but I feel like now is the time to get it. Like this moment.
Well, the Phillies just played Friday night against the Braves, and I've been trying, and I finally I don't
do anything. You just host a show and run a radio station. What are you doing?
I'm an Android guy though, so I don't have like the necessary, so we had to use my girlfriend's ID and everything. So she finally figured out how to get us in. We watched the game on Friday, but every time the Phillies have been on Apple Plus this year, I said I'm not doing it. I'm out. But they were playing the Braves.
Somebody's now going to put on the chat their password and stuff for you to take
That's
it.
I've been waiting. Now I need Max for the Hard Knocks tonight.
Oh, I watched the first one with the Giants. That's pretty good, actually, the behind the scenes of that. Well, you're going to get a lot of stuff on the Saquon part of it.
Oh, I actually found it on YouTube on Saturday. I had to wait a couple days, but it came out on YouTube. I watched it. I'm all in. Up to date. Good to see you, man.
You just won't. How do you know you're working radio when you're trying to find ways of watching streaming everywhere else, but actually paying for streaming?
At one point, I was paying for cable and YouTube TV. I had Comcast internet and Verizon internet at the same. I was like, too much. I'm out. I'm starting from scratch.
I'm the sucker. I have everything basically.
Well, we enjoy hearing you, man. Oh, by the way, dead fish handshake is the worst.
Worse than the strong one?
100%. I'll take the strong one. The guy can grab my hand and break it. The dead fish handshake is such a turnoff. So out on that.
I'm not saying I'm in on it, but I just had somebody, my best family friend, her mother, or excuse me, father, had the strongest handshake of any human I've ever seen, where I literally tried to avoid him because I would, I'd be injured as a result.
I was at a graduation party Sunday. I never met the man. The guy opened the door. You must be Mike Gill. He grabbed my hand. He shook it. I said to the girl, man, your father's handshake, that was something. But I'll take that over the dead fish anytime.
Well, I know when I see you in person, I'm going to try to break your hands.
Evan Cohen tomorrow morning, 6 a.m. right here on 97.3 ESPN. Thank you, man.
Thank you. I appreciate it.
All right, Evan's back tomorrow at 6 here on 97.3 ESPN. And we're back with today's Big Three coming up on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. And don't forget, this hour brought to you by Broadlee's Plumbing, Heating, Air Conditioning, your trusted source for heating, plumbing service, installation for generations. 609-390-3907 online, broadlees.net. Big Three coming up.
This is the story of the one. As a maintenance engineer, he hears things differently. To the untrained ear, everything on his shop floor might sound fine, but he can hear gears grinding or a belt slipping. So he steps in to fix the problem at hand before it gets out of hand. And he knows Grainger's got the right product he needs to get the job done, which is music to his ears. Call, click Grainger.com, or just stop by. Grainger, for the ones who get it done.
You're sitting in traffic.
You come with me.
The Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN and the 97.3 ESPN free mobile app.
536 Sports Bash, 97.3 ESPN. I'm Mike Gill. Thanks to Evan Cohen from Unsportsmanlike. Listen to him weekday morning, 6 a.m. on 97.3 ESPN. Always love catching up with Evan. We always have a good time together. I was listening this morning talking about the orange slices. I've never heard that before. Have you?
Never in my life. That explanation makes zero sense to me. Like, I have so many questions. Like, are you eating the orange slices
in the shower? Well,
like in between, like the soap and the shampoo? Are you eating it before?
I'm like, the whole thing about like your hands get sticky. You can wash your hands after you're done eating the orange.
I feel like the person who says your hands get sticky while I'm eating an orange is the same person who complains that wings are messy.
Well, his point is your hands get messy with the wings.
Yeah. So what?
I was listening to the conversation this morning in the car in disbelief.
And Michelle says this is a thing?
She says she knows a lot of people that do it.
I want to meet these people. I want to have a round table of these people because I have a lot of questions.
Yep.
I have a lot of questions for you people.
By the way, so I asked Evan Cohen, drums or flats?
Important question.
He said drums.
So he's on team drums.
Yeah.
That's an important distinction. Now, the question, though, is Michelle Smallman a flats person because she eats oranges in the shower?
Psychotic, yeah.
I'm just saying they might go together. Just putting
Possible.
it out there.
Yeah, exactly. All right, today's Big Three.
It's being brought to you by Boxing Insider Promotions. They're bringing you the boxing event of the summer on Friday, July 26th at Tropicana Atlantic City Showroom. It is Justin Figueroa, undefeated junior middleweight, returning to action in Atlantic City, along with top-rated heavyweight Otto Wallen and Absegami High School's own Bruce Selden Jr., all in action Friday, July 26th. Tickets on sale now at Ticketmaster.com. Don't miss out. Boxing Insider Promotions return to Tropicana Atlantic City showroom on Friday, July 26th.
Quick note, Tyler Glass now has been placed on the IL for the Dodgers now. So another one of my fantasy pitchers is now on the injured list.
So is that your whole team now on the injured list?
Right now,
staff?
I own Glass now, IL.
Yep.
Bueller, IL. Senga, IL. Yamamoto, IL. 4 guys, 3 Dodgers on the IL.
I mean, what are the odds of that even happening? Maybe you should go play the lottery tonight.
Yeah.
I know it's depressing, but still. This could be spun into your favor, Mike. If you're getting at that high, that unique of a percentage, you might want to take the numbers of those pitchers and play the lottery.
Yeah.
I'm just saying.
Uh-huh.
Then you could, shoot me a text and be like, I'm out of here.
I got you. I'm feeling what you're picking up, what you're putting down. I got you.
By the way, in some other news in the Big Three, Paul Reed is joining Tobias Harris, Mike, in Detroit. I don't know if you saw this. The Pistons are claiming Paul Reed off waivers, which means they will absorb the rest of his 3-year, $24 million deal he signed last year. So
I saw
Pistons
that,
love wasting money, apparently.
Well, I saw that ESPN.com listed the 6 best free agents that are still available and the best fit for them. He was one of them, and they were saying the best fit would have been to go to the Knicks to replace Hartenstein.
That would make too much sense.
So I'm glad he didn't do that.
Yeah, now he goes to the Pistons, and he'll be on a horrible team.
Yeah, the Pistons team, I don't know what the heck they want to be. They just gave that big contract today from
Cade
Cunningham. And now they got Tobias Harris. But here's the thing that people, they text in a lot. I don't like what the Sixers did. They should have waited about. You can't. You have to spend the money when you have it. So Detroit has to spend the money.
I get they have to spend the money, but to spend it on those 3 guys.
Paul Reed's fine. I don't have a problem signing Paul Reed. He has a role. I think the Sixers miscasted him as a backup center.
True. So what is his role in Detroit then?
Possibly as more of a
power forward.
Yeah, maybe like an energy guy that can, have a little bit different freedom and stuff. Here it was more about hey, you can't mess up these 15 minutes.
True. But still, we looked this up earlier, actually. The Detroit Pistons actually had 8 lottery picks last year. Got them 14 wins.
They have messed up a lot.
I still can't believe they gave Cade Cunningham all that money. But I understand what you're saying. The idea is that you have to spend it on somebody.
Well, Cade Cunningham shouldn't count against because they re-signed their own guy.
That's true.
Yeah.
He shouldn't.
But they, Tobias Harris, $50 million. 2 years, $50 million, $25 million a year. You're thinking, why the heck would you give Tobias? You have to give somebody money. And they look at Tobias Harris as a veteran player who had been there before around all those young kids that they have.
Well, aside from the Phillies news from earlier today with Schwarber and Harper returning, which is a big news item as well, Mike, I did want to ask you about, I don't know if you saw this story about Arch Manning.
Apparently, he's going to be in the game or something.
Yeah,
in the college football.
Arch Manning was one of a couple of holdouts from the game. He had been refusing to sign up for the game because he was trying to get a bigger NIL offer.
$600.
Well, apparently the offer never came, and his uncle Eli Manning apparently was the person who convinced him to actually just sign up for the game, to the point where Eli and Arch did a commercial together advertising that he is now in the game.
Good for him. I mean, what does he come on, get in the game.
Well, first of all, the whole thing's stupid because he's not even the starting quarterback. He's entering the year as the backup for Texas again.
Mm-hmm.
So he's not the starting quarterback.
I can't believe he didn't transfer. Good for him for not transferring.
Well, apparently he really likes Steve Sarkisian.
Fine.
So,
just saying, most of these guys, they're not the starters, so they get up and leave.
By the way, there are over 10,000 players who have opted into this game. So this is a pretty comprehensive game, and they have old player rosters. So, for example, Mike, if you want to relive Eli Manning versus West Virginia in that bowl game at Ole Miss, you can do that.
It's pretty cool. I mean, I haven't played any video game in quite some time. Not that I'm anti,
What was the last video game you played?
I have no clue.
You don't even remember?
No.
It's out of sight, out of mind at this point.
I mean, I was a PlayStation guy, so Xbox I'm out on. I don't really like, it's like which is funny because PlayStation would probably be more iPhone and Xbox I feel like is more Android. Maybe not. Isn't one Sony PlayStation?
PlayStation is Sony. Microsoft is Xbox.
Well, I'm PlayStation, not Xbox. My girlfriend's sons have Xbox, so I can't figure out the buttons. I don't want to figure out the buttons. I'm done. I retired.
You're out. You're just like, I'm out.
Yeah.
I'm out on this. I want to hit on a couple other stories with you really quick, Mike. So you may not know this because there's 20 million people who transfer every year in college football, but DJ Uiagalelei is now at Florida State.
Oh, yeah, I saw this. So he was at Clemson, then Oregon State, and now he's at Florida State.
Well, he was supposed to be one of the guys meeting at ACC Media Day, but he said, I don't want to be there because he says, I was not part of the team that won the championship last year. And he said the players who put this team on the top, the players who are the reason why I transferred here, they should be at Media Day. So he's not there.
He's got a point. Like, what are they going to ask him about? Now, he could talk about this year's team, so I don't understand, like, why he wouldn't say, I'm going to take questions about...
Because he doesn't want to take the shine away from the other guys. That's his theory. And he's getting a lot of social media reactions positively to the point where people are even using the T.O., that's my quarterback meme with it.
Jeez. Well, I don't know. I mean, he is the quarterback of the team. He should probably be there.
I think it's awesome. I think it's a great decision by him because it shows that he is willing to be a team guy and not a me guy in a world where everyone's about themselves.
Yeah, but I don't look at it being a me guy. You're the starting quarterback. People want to ask you questions. I mean, you're a high-profile guy. You've been to 3 high-profile schools now. What did you transfer 3 times for? Why did you leave Oregon State? I don't think that's unfair for people to want to get those answers.
I feel pretty confident that there'll be other opportunities for people to ask him those questions.
Absolutely. But today was the first opportunity. It's media day. Go out there and represent.
ACC Media Day.
You are the whatever.
Florida State Media Day is next month. You do it then.
Sure.
You're just like, whatever, Josh. Moving on to the final story, I would hit on with you. Kevin Durant is joining a very interesting lineup. I don't know if you saw this. So Kevin Durant is joining Patrick Mahomes, Aaron Judge, Tyreek Hill, and UFC's Israel Adesanya as the newest spokesman for Prime hydration drinks. They made the announcement to Logan Paul today. It's a picture of him, KSI, who his brother Jake fought, by the way, and Kevin Durant all in a picture. And there's a special Kevin Durant version of the drink coming out, and it's supposed to kind of symbolize the U.S. Olympic team with the blue, the red, and the star on the bottle. So Kevin Durant, the latest big-name celebrity to join what is now, according to Forbes magazine, a $1.2 billion product that Logan Paul has.
Hey, listen, those Paul brothers are rolling the world. We're just kind of living in it, man. They are. One's got Prime, one's got the other drink, right?
Yeah, so Jake Paul owns Celsius.
Both are very good drinks. You drink the Celsius every day.
I drink the Celsius every day. I do. As a certified nutritionist, I can recommend it.
Well, I like the Celsius. I like the Prime.
Prime does a good job, too. Then they are 2 of the 4 highest grossing drinks in the product lines.
It's unbelievable.
They're up there with Gatorade and Red Bull, Mike.
It's crazy. Yeah, I mean, give them credit.
Now they got Kevin Durant.
And now they got Kevin Durant. Is Kevin Durant, what's his Q rating right now? Is he even popular? I feel like he's like a miserable...
Maybe this will make him happy.
Yeah.
Maybe that's why he needs Prime. He needs to get in a better mood. Now, my question is, because Logan Paul is in WWE, will we ever see a product placement with Kevin Durant and Prime at a WWE match coming soon
I would
to
imagine
a town near you?
I would imagine. They already do Prime sometimes, don't they? I really haven't watched a lot.
Well, he does his own product placement, but I think it'd be funny if Durant showed up with the bottle in his hand. Was at one of them, like a Monday Night Raw or whatever. That'd be hilarious to me.
Getting ready to wrap up tonight's show, brought to you by Broadlee's Plumbing, Heating, Air Conditioning. Broadlee's, your trusted source for heating, plumbing, service, installation for generations. Call them 609-390-3907, online, broadlees.net. Phillies lineup tonight against the Dodgers has 2 new faces in it. That's next.
The Sports Bash with Mike Gill on 97.3 ESPN and the free mobile app.
Getting ready to get out of here on this Tuesday night. Phils tonight, 2 new faces in the lineup tonight. Some guy named Schwarber and another guy named Harper. They're back for the Phils tonight against the Dodgers at Citizens Bank Park. It'll be Zach Wheeler getting the ball for the Phils, who have a very playoff-esque lineup tonight with Schwarber, Turner, Harper, Bohm. That's the 4. And then Stott, Castellanos, Marsh, Marchand, and Rojas. So they've kind of got back to normal. Stott was leading off. He's now back to the 5 spot. Marsh was in the 4 hole. He's now dropped all the way down to the 7 spot. Then Marchand 8 and Rojas 9. It'll be interesting to see. JT Realmuto was taking batting practice on the field today. So can we get a JT sighting here soon? Possible. Quickly on the basketball side, Suns are in talks with Kyle Lowry. Lowry is deciding between a return to the Sixers or leaving for Phoenix. Is anybody interested in Kyle Lowry returning?
I don't want him to return. I think Nick Nurse was giving him too much playing time out of loyalty.
I have to think about how I feel about that with this kind of 2 younger guys, with McCain. We'll see. So that's something. By the way, Paul Reed, he has signed with Detroit, the Pistons. So the Pistons get Paul Reed. Plenty more coming up tonight on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. I'm Mike Gill. I'll be back again tomorrow. Keith Pompey on the show tomorrow. Mike Gary, Jeff Mosher, and more, all right here on the Sports Bash Live on 97.3 ESPN. Have a great night, everybody. We'll talk to you tomorrow.